Chapter 61. The caster cannot cast magic spells in the magic net only by relying on the projection of his own mental power, which is the main reason why exploring the magic net is so dangerous. But Harvey believes that a powerful mage like Master Cairo will not be prepared to deal with such extreme threats. I also have a powerful energy beam attack method, but now it is not a question of whether to help them, but I need to stay and pave a way out for myself to escape. The Scorching Master, who was invisible in the cyclone, did not choose to resist passively, nor did he consider escaping alone. He drove the expansion cyclone wrapped in his magic pattern and crashed straight towards the huge mountain covered with crimson cracks. Are you legendary spellcasters so reckless? Harvey was stunned for a moment. The collision was silent, and the black and red granulation and short beards stopped swinging, as if they were frozen in an instant. The other two high-level casters who were struggling to support immediately reacted and used their trump cards. A phantom of an exquisite and small sailboat model floated out from Captain Ghost's magic pattern, as if he was sailing out of nowhere, constantly jogging towards the peak. The elemental hand released a deep purple light ball from the magic pattern. As soon as the light ball escaped from the magic pattern, it exploded instantly and turned into starry fragments, covering him and Captain Ghost, forming a panoramic pattern. A thick fog with a glimmer of light. It seems that the two of them planned to assist the Scorching Master in attack and the other to be responsible for defense. But after the small sailboat hit the mountain, it caused even more terrifying changes. The cracks covered with dense mountain suddenly opened to the limit like countless eyes. Several larger cracks merged into a huge dark red strange eyeball. The dark pupils kept turning up and down, as if they wanted to turn your eyes to the several spellcasters in front of you. Harvey once again sensed the abnormal movement of the main star projection in the magic pattern, and a more intense sense of crisis came instantly. Can't wait any longer. He immediately mobilized his mental power to connect with himself in the real world, and frantically absorbed the compressed energy stored in the instrument. Until his mental power expands, even his soul feels a slight tingling feeling. The stored energy should reach its limit. Harvey no longer hesitated and immediately aimed the magic pattern at the huge crimson eyeball, igniting the energy beam attack. A huge pure white energy beam suddenly ejected from the magic pattern, heading straight to the eye at a speed that was almost invisible to the naked eye. Even the space seemed to be slightly distorted along the way it passed. When everyone was not able to react at all, they hit the terrifying huge eyeball hard. The scene of violent impact and energy explosion that Harvey imagined did not appear. The silence in the crack space was as quiet as it was, and even the cyclone of the Scorching Master stopped rotating. The eyeball blinked gently, and instantly melted like winter snow hitting a fire. The entire mountain peak was also destroyed, as if it was gently smeared and wiped off in the scroll by an eraser. Only a pale, dry, and cracked land was left. The moment Harvey's eyes disappeared, a large amount of indescribable and profound knowledge suddenly poured into his mind. He didn't have time to think and digest it. He just felt that his mind was about to be burst, which made him unable to help but want to suffer. Roaring. In pain and chaos, he felt that his mental power was pulled by a huge force. The next second he woke up on the recliner in the underground laboratory and he escaped from the magic net space. Sir, are you okay? The reserve energy of the energy gathering array was suddenly drained. Mr. Asterin is urgently replenishing. Reiner came over to help Harvey up and asked with concern. Harvey shook his head, feeling a deep feeling of fatigue coming from the depths of his soul, which seemed to be the reason for excessive use of mental power. He still endured his headache, sat back in front of the demon brain and entered the forum, and tapped the button to send a message to the three members. Administrator Turing, don't try to enter that space crack again, I won't have time to help you next time. After using the last bit of willpower to pretend to be this pussy, Harvey fell softly next to the devil brain and was helped back to the recliner to rest. It's not a loss to suffer such a great crime this time. At least the money is in place, and my image in the forum becomes more and more mysterious and powerful. I also unexpectedly gained a piece of knowledge about the rift of the different space. Harvey could clearly sense that deep in his consciousness, those complex and obscure knowledge condensed into a small fruit, waiting for him to absorb and digest at any time. The three forum members who also escaped by chance from the space rift of the magic net are all sitting in front of the demon brain. There is no mistake. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1619, 1 book, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, a book. Looking at the message sent by Mr. Administrator Turing not long ago, each of them had the answer in their hearts. Master of the Burning, it was Mr. Turing who took action. Haha, I didn't even sense his existence at all. Maybe his body was not in the crack, but he just cast a long eye for attention. Captain Ghost, I didn't expect that Mr. Turing really gave us help. Fortunately, he prayed to him for attention before the action, otherwise only Mr. Cairo's lord could be spared. Ghost Captain, however, for such a powerful being, the price of helping is just the most worthless money, which makes me very confused. Hand of Elements, it's just like an adult playing an exchange game with a child. Alas! Scorching Lord, Mr. Turing repeatedly mentioned the principle of equivalent exchange. This may be a world rule that a being like him must follow, but for us, he has shown great kindness. Ghost Captain, praise Mr. Turing. Hand of Elements, do you remember the mysterious energy beam that appeared in the magic network space not long ago? Could it be related to Mr. Turing? Scorching Lord, it's best not to explore it privately. Maybe you can get the answer by asking him publicly at the exchange meeting. The two high-level spellcasters keenly noticed that the Scorching Lord had quietly changed the name of Administrator Turing, but they tacitly agreed to it. He easily destroyed the existence of strange things in the alien space with just an energy beam. Of course, he can no longer be regarded as a high-level spellcaster like himself and others. They vaguely felt that a being like Mr. Turing might have surpassed the rank of a legendary spellcaster and reached the life level that all spellcasters ultimately desired, a demigod. Scorching Overlord, okay, let's all take a break and recover first. Tomorrow we will share the harvest and results of this exploration as agreed before. I look forward to sharing the knowledge I've gained with you. Chapter 62. Harvey sat in the study, flipping through some study notes he had recorded during his college years. Starting from an intermediate spellcaster, every improvement in magic power is an interaction between cognition and thinking, a process of transforming knowledge into substantial power. And the most important thing for the promotion from the initial level to the intermediate level is to build a spiritual anchor that belongs to oneself, which requires the spellcaster to integrate his cognition of the real world, his cognition of his own existence, and his cognition of knowledge and belief. Harvey closed the book, always feeling that there was something wrong with the theoretical knowledge taught by the teacher. Then why can't I roam in the magic network space? I haven't successfully built my own spiritual anchor yet. Harvey felt that the problem might be with his magic tattoo that had become unrecognizable. Although he had successfully engraved a 3-ring spell in the magic pattern and had the basic requirements for promotion to an intermediate spellcaster, Harvey would never dare to take the risk of trying to promote before solving the problem of magic pattern mutation. It seems that I still have to find an opportunity to go to the magic capital Ale in person and solve the promotion problem through legitimate channels. It's not enough to just pretend on the magic network forum. There will always be a time when the excuses are exhausted. Who knows when the rookie's feet will be exposed? High-level spellcasters are not fools who can be easily deceived. So Harvey can only temporarily turn his attention to the ancient knowledge he obtained in the alien space cracks a few days ago. It now exists in his consciousness in the form of a knowledge fruit, and he can start learning at any time. It is now midnight, which is the most active period of death energy in the magic network space. Harvey does not need too much meditation guidance, and he easily immerses himself in consciousness and begins to try to analyze it with his mental power. As soon as his mental power touched the fruit, Harvey found that its structure was extremely fragile. In a blink of an eye, it broke and split into several glowing nuclei, which were arranged in Harvey's consciousness. Hey? The arrangement and distribution of these light cores are related and regular. Harvey, who had seen too many formulas of various disciplines in his previous life, keenly discovered the characteristics contained in them. He tried to devour one of the light cores with his mental power, and immediately obtained the first key knowledge from it. Elements are broken. The second nucleus was also quickly absorbed by Harvey's mental power. Matter reorganization. The two nuclei are very close to each other, and there is obviously a certain regular connection between broken and reorganized. It seems that the subsequent experiments have added a new direction. Continuously absorbing two knowledge light cores made Harvey's mental power show signs of exhaustion. There is no way, this is the weak nature of the primary caster. He planned to stop here, rest for a night to recover his spirit, and then start a series of experiments on new knowledge tomorrow. Late at night the next day, Harvey took Stalin and Reiner to the underground laboratory to prepare for the upcoming experiments. He first used the limited stock of liquid mithril to draw a simple fusion magic matrix according to the magic knowledge he absorbed yesterday, and repeatedly activated it through the energy gathering array to observe the integrity of the energy path in the array drawing. There is no problem with the energy path, and each conversion connection point in the matrix can be activated normally. Reiner held the experimental record manual and stood beside the array and skillfully reported a long list of observation results. What about the matrix structure? If the structure is unstable, it cannot be maintained for a long time even if it is activated, and it will still cause the experiment to fail. In the face of the research of new arrays, Stalin is much more cautious than Reiner, and he can often point out the most likely places to be negligent at the first time. Harvey is very satisfied with the rigorous and serious attitude of the two experimental assistants. Okay, let's check it one last time and let's get started. He took a research material prepared in advance from the experimental table and placed it in the center of the array. Start with the natural magic material first. Stalin asked with a frown. He still remembered that when he analyzed the beetle ore, he also started from this aspect, but it was ineffective. Harvey smiled and said, "This is Egno's suggestion." He said that natural magic materials are the most sensitive and fragile, which means they are most likely to produce experimental reactions. If the hybrid elf had not treated 3 people with ulcers during the day and was now in a deep sleep due to exhaustion of magic energy and mental strength, Harvey would have wanted him to watch the experiment. The 3 of them stopped chatting and started the energy supply system of the magic circle. As the array lines drawn with liquid mithril in the matrix gradually filled up, each connection point lit up slightly and emitted a silver-white light. The magic plant material placed in the center of the magic circle slowly broke and disintegrated like weathering, turning into a small pile of light green powder. Harvey signaled Reiner to record the experimental results. Start the second stage immediately, reorganize the experiment. The originally flowing mithril lines on the magic circle instantly began to reverse, and the speed of operation was far faster than the first stage. The pile of light green magic plant powder was gently lifted up by the invisible energy flow, suspended in the air, and finally gradually condensed into a fist-sized liquid substance. No mistakes, just go to the 6-9 book forum. Hey? Why did it become like this after the reorganization? Shouldn't it turn back to the original plant form? Reiner muttered while holding the small notebook. Stalin rolled his eyes unhappily. Reorganization only means the reintegration of the origin of matter, not the reversal of time. Do you think this is a magical experiment of a legendary spellcaster? Harvey was very satisfied with the experimental results. This form of fragmentation and reorganization means that you can go through the most important extraction and refining links in alchemy pharmacy and directly obtain the material origin of magic materials, which is no different from cheating. Unexpectedly, the knowledge obtained from monsters in the rift of the alien space is so advanced and powerful. With this magic circle, we can try to reorganize a large number of magic plants to achieve mass production of low-level alchemy potions. Asterin quickly interrupted Harvey's beautiful imagination. Sir, the 2 energy gathering arrays are now operating at overload and cannot support more magic arrays to supply energy. Harvey's mouth, which had just raised, immediately froze and he could only cough twice awkwardly to cover it up. As Asterin said, now, in addition to maintaining the operation of the magic net form on a daily basis, the energy gathering array also needs to repeatedly power a large number of energy-charged magic stones to drive huge combat-type alchemy beasts and working-type alchemy beast. Especially the farm machines set up on the farm consume more than 6 magic stone energy every day. It's really on the verge of an energy crisis. Seeing Harvey's expression depressed, Reiner quickly spoke up to liven up the atmosphere, and suggested in a slightly fanatical tone, "Sir, let's try reorganizing beetle ore." Asterin's eyes condensed with his soul fire and said angrily, "I haven't learned a lesson in the last experimental explosion yet, right?" The adults were almost blown to the ceiling. Reiner shrank his shoulders and muttered in a low voice, "But isn't it okay to be sir? One lucky one does not mean that you are lucky every time." Stalin reminded sternly. Chapter 63. Asterin finally failed to fight 2 research casters who were very addicted to food. However, at his strong request, Harvey agreed that Reiner would conduct the experiment operation like last time, while he stayed in the laboratory's specially made explosion-proof guard and used the reconnaissance eye for experiment guidance and observation. In Asterin's words, Reiner's new prosthetic body will arrive next month. Now, as long as this body is not blown up, you can do whatever you want. You can't be too careless. The beetle ore stock is not much, and you have to rush to make the next batch of magic guns. Save experimental materials. Harvey smiled bitterly and looked at Reiner, helpless with the old-school Asterin. Reiner placed a beetle ore in the center of the reorganized magic array, and then walked to the energy gathering array to activate the magic array to charge it. The crushing effect of the magic array on ore-like magical substances is indeed consistent with the situation of plant-like magical materials, and it is instantly decomposed into crystal powder state. Harvey was not worried that there would be problems with this step of the experiment of breaking and decomposition. After all, the Alchemy Secret Society had long developed a decomposition instrument specifically for magical matter. The key lies in the restructuring step. As Reiner initiated the second stage experiment, the energy of the magic array instantly accelerated retrogradely. The ore that was originally decomposed into crystal powder slowly condensed and reorganized, and finally formed a group of irregularly shaped semi-transparent composition. Hey? It has not returned to the crystal form of the ore. Harvey saw this phenomenon through the reconnaissance eye and suddenly felt a little puzzled. It is said that the decomposition and reorganization of ore materials should restore their original form. After all, it is not like a plant, it belongs to an organic living body. After obtaining Harvey's permission, Reiner slowly approached the translucent composition in the center of the magic circle with tweezers and poked it gently. Sir! It's soft. Semi-solidified state? Or semi-solid? Asterin was also confused, and went to the magic circle to grab the tweezers from Reiner's hand, and then tried to touch the mass of matter. Indeed, there is no material stratification, it is a semi-solidified state as if. He could not describe it as a specific thing. It's like jelly, or slime. Harvey murmured in his heart. Then he walked out from the special explosion-proof guard plate, took the tweezers from Asterin, who was stunned and thought about it, and carefully peeled off a small piece of it from the mass. It is then transferred to the stationary bracket of the lab bench. However, in just over a dozen seconds, the small ball of substance that was peeled off gradually solidified and hardened from its original jelly shape, and returned to the hard crystal form of the ore. What a magical mineral! The characteristics of the mineral will change so much in the state of aggregated and separated. Harvey carefully took off the fully solidified ore grain and handed it to Reiner for instructions. Verify whether this decomposed ore grain stores pure compression energy. Reiner originally wanted to inlay it into the energy slot on the side of his waist, but he was helpless to find that the particles were too small and could not be fixed at all. He could only lead an energy supply pipeline of the energy gathering array and try to extract the possible existence of the ore particles. Magic power. He randomly selected the energy supply object as a magic gun just made on the assembly line, and the fire stick version that has not yet been charged. As the energy pipeline is connected, the inscription of the energy storage on the magic gun lights up slightly and goes out instantly. Sir! This ore grain really still has compressed magic energy, and it can actually provide energy to the magic gun. Reiner reported to Harvey in surprise. Harvey quickly stepped forward to take the magic gun and raised his hand to shoot at the black stone wall. The energy beam quickly penetrates the stone wall, leaving a hole as thick as a finger. Asterin has now divided the soft semi-solidified ore into ore particles of uniform shape and size to confirm that a complete beetle ore can be divided into 10 solidified particles in equal proportions. Isn't this a magical rifle bullet? If the magic gun is simply transformed and the storage bay for ore particles is reserved, this technology will surpass the magic weapon of this era, and it will be no different from the rifle in my previous life. And you can send it continuously. There is no need to load and withdraw the bore like a bolt rifle. It is not impossible if the ore particles provided are sufficient, or even upgraded to a magical version of the revolver. Harvey threw down the magic gun, quickly returned to the laboratory bench, pulled out a blank piece of paper, and began to use a charcoal pen to draw the magic gun transformation drawings he imagined. There is no mistake. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 619, 1 book, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, a book. The bullet bay does not need to be fixed to the gun. It is most suitable to assemble it with the gun in the form of a magazine, and the weight also needs to be controlled. After all, ordinary soldiers are not alchemy lives. If they carry guns with excessive weight, they can conduct long-distance marches or sports operations. At the same time, it will consume a lot of physical strength and combat power. Well, I will determine the capacity of the magazine to 10 rounds for the time being. After the output of beetle ore is increased, then consider upgrading to a large capacity magazine of 20 rounds. The output of beetle ore depends on the reserve of low-level charged magic stones. After all, only this kind of magic feed can accelerate their growth and reproduction cycle. And the reserve of low-level charged magic stones depends on the money in his hand. Thinking of this, Harvey did not hesitate at all and turned to Reiner and gave instructions. Withdraw 20,000 gold pounds from the 50,000 gold pounds received the day before yesterday, and sign a continuous supply order with Mr. Frost Giant in the Cave City. If the output is not enough, contact Mr. George Santos of the Dragonstone Chamber of Commerce. Buying magic stones from the Dragonstone Chamber of Commerce is definitely more expensive than Harvey buying magic stones directly from the Federation as a member of the Federation's spellcaster. But in terms of safety and concealment, Harvey will never consider buying magic stones from the Federation's channels. After all, no non-combat spellcaster will buy so many charged magic stones in a short period of time, which will undoubtedly attract the attention and investigation of the Federation. It is even very likely that they will be suspected of purchasing magic stones in order to smuggle or resell them to non-alliance aliens. If this crime is accused, it will be impossible to clear it even if you jump into the sea. The Federation has always strictly controlled the circulation of magic stones, especially the export of magic stones from the elves, and the possible smuggling of magic stones to the mortal enemy demons. Being cautious and low-key is the state that I need to maintain most at the moment. Chapter 64. Master Harvey. Look at what good stuff this is. Egno excitedly took 2 people to find Harvey in the underground laboratory. What the hell is this? Harvey looked at the wet sack in front of him, and shook out several short and thick snake-like creatures. The sticky liquid on the surface of the body was all over the floor of the laboratory, and he immediately felt a little nauseous. Egno didn't care. He bent down and picked up one of them, and firmly pinched the suspected neck of this strange short snake, so that it couldn't turn its head to attack him. Remember what I reported to you last week, that some people were picking mushrooms in the green water swamp in the west and were attacked by poisonous snakes? Harvey scratched his head, as if he vaguely remembered that there was such a thing. About 2 or 3 hours away from the west of the territory, there is a vast swamp, which is rich in a kind of delicious non-toxic mushroom, which is called red algae mushroom by the people. Harvey has tasted the thick soup made from red algae mushroom and fresh fish several times during meals. It is indeed delicious. It is probably because of this advantage that some people who do not have a fixed job often go to the green water swamp to pick mushrooms. After all, the market area is no longer a state of Harvey's exclusive business. He encourages people who do not have a fixed job to sell their hunting or gathering harvests freely in the market, and only need to pay a small amount of tax. As more and more people go to the swamp area to hunt and gather, some accidents of being attacked by wild beasts and poisonous snakes and insects often occur. Harvey considered that it was time to establish a systematic medical system in the territory, on the one hand to meet the daily medical needs of the people, and on the other hand to start preparing talents needed for wartime medical care in advance for the upcoming war. As expected, this important task was handed over to the hybrid elf Egno, who had won the trust and praise of Harvey and the other 3 with his performance, and no longer had to wander around the territory all day in boredom. Egno attached great importance to this appointment. He felt that his skills had finally found a place to use, and no one discriminated against his hybrid identity. Now, the People's Hospital in the territory he led has more than a dozen pharmacists and medical care workers who were taught by him personally working normally. So those people who were bitten by poisonous snakes in the swamp were naturally handed over to him for detoxification and treatment. My lord, this thing is not a poisonous snake at all. Egno waved this sticky creature proudly and showed off to Harvey. Harvey couldn't help but take a step back. What is it then? A poisonous loach? If you can't eat it, throw it away. No, no, no. It's not a loach either, it's an insect. An insect like an oversized leech. Egno began to talk endlessly, reporting to Harvey his research results on this oversized leech. So, the mucus on this thick leech has the ability to heal and accelerate the growth and recovery of wounds. Harvey asked uncertainly, and its fangs can secrete a toxin similar to anesthetic, which can make the bitten prey feel no pain. Egno nodded and added, all these characteristics are to meet this guy's bloodthirsty hunting needs. It will attach to large animals and use paralysis toxins to suck blood from the prey without noticing. Egno also mentioned that this creature is extremely sensitive to the smell of blood. Some of the attacked people, just a small wound on the toes that is almost healed, will be immediately found by it following the smell. But humans are obviously not within its hunting range. After all, no one would ignore a snake as thick as an arm sucking blood from their body. I plan to capture a large number of these creatures and try to raise them, so that we can continuously obtain raw materials for anesthetics and analgesia, as well as therapeutic materials for accelerating wound recovery. Harvey's heart moved, and he said, well, yes, it is indeed a very meaningful idea. Go ahead and do it. If you don't have enough manpower, you can go to the military camp to find Pierce. If you need financial subsidies, go to Reiner. Leave these giant leeches here with me. I just need some live experimental materials. Egno got the manpower and funds promised by Harvey as he wished, and left happily with his medical staff. Harvey paused for a moment and suddenly realized that this guy came here today not to report the progress of the hospital's work to him, but to cheat the funds. Harvey worked at his desk for a while, dismantling the previously drawn sketch of the magic gun modification into several detailed finished product drawings, and then pressed the communication device to call Reiner and Stalin. Today, both of them are responsible for teaching the staff of the Ministry of Agriculture to repair and maintain the alchemy beast. Harvey glanced at the sack of linen that was tied up and thrown on the ground, and it was still squirming, and a feeling of disgust surged in his heart again. In his previous life, the creature he hated most was the leech. He cast the magician's hand, threw the sack into the living experiment material box, pulled out a giant leech and threw it on the experimental table. The leech kept twisting and struggling under the suppression of the magician's hand, and the mucus splashed everywhere. Ugh! So disgusting! He stood far away and took out a wild rabbit from another experimental box. He used a blade to cut a long cut on its strong hind leg, then dipped a small amount of leech mucus on a test paper and smeared it on the rabbit's wound. No mistakes in one post, one content, 169 book, one forum. The mucus quickly covered the wound and stopped the blood from flowing. It seems that Egno was right. Since this giant leech is a fragile mollusk, it must have evolved a super strong recovery ability to ensure its survival. This is the natural evolution rule of species in nature. As for the paralytic toxin contained in its fangs, Harvey did not intend to try to analyze it. The hybrid elf Egno was much more professional than him in this regard, so it was more appropriate to let him study it. The rabbit that was cut and healed suddenly jumped twice and accidentally approached the struggling leech. The giant leech seemed to smell the smell of blood, and immediately stopped its useless struggle, stretching its body as much as possible to reach towards the rabbit. As expected, it is extremely sensitive to the smell of blood. Harvey's thoughts were somewhat scattered. If we use its sensitivity to blood, combined with its own paralysis and healing abilities, maybe we can use soul transformation to make this leech into an alchemical beast with medical abilities. In this way, it can at least have the therapeutic functions of detecting wounds, quickly stopping bleeding, and quickly relieving pain. He immediately ran back to the laboratory table and recorded his sudden inspiration. After Reiner and Stalin arrived, he could immediately start trying the transformation experiment. Anyway, what he lacked the least now was the alchemical waste parts sent by the Alchemical Exploration Society. Chapter 65. The dwarf leader Nolly was sitting comfortably on the sofa next to the fireplace, holding the account book and reading it carefully. Nilai! God! Look at what I just made! His incompetent brother Tong Chuan rushed into his study again and shouted. Nilai rolled his eyes speechlessly. But Gong Hammer didn't care and waved a thin piece of paper in his hand proudly. Didn't you always look down on my business mind? Humph, look at what this is. The dwarf leader barely supported his body, took the obviously enchanted trait paper from the copper hammer's hand, and read a few lines roughly. His eyes suddenly widened, and then his breathing became much heavier. This, what did you get the order? Tong Hammer said proudly, how is it? Orders for magic stone organic order worth 20,000 gold pounds, long-term supply orders. The cave city is located in a hilly area near the sea in the southern part of the southern continent. It is a natural territory of the cave dwarfs for generations. Because the land is barren and not conducive to farming, no other race is willing to work hard to get it. They drill holes underground all day long with these people. The dwarfs compete. But the unique racial talent of the dwarves in the cave allowed them to explore the magic stone veins deep in the barren land and dig and collect them in large quantities. Gradually, a dwarf race industry with the export of magic stone raw ore as its main business was formed. The cave city where the Copper Hammer and Nolly are located is built on the largest magic stone vein in the southern hills. After nearly 200 years of mining, the production of low-order ores is still abundant, but the production of more scarce high-order ores has declined year by year. They had to go deeper underground to dig high-order ore, which was more difficult and cost than ever before. Coupled with the common monopoly of the human wizard kingdom and the Federation, they have a single sales line and can only be subject to the exploitation and price reduction of the Magic Stone Chamber of Commerce. 20,000 pounds, only low-level magic stones are needed. This cur. Mr. Suzid, isn't this really a casual recreation? Nilai looked at the order in a daze, still a little disbelief. After all, the profits of the cave city have not been very good in recent years, especially after the Federation occupied the newly explored magic stone minerals in the Evil Moon Mountains. The Magic Stone Chamber of Commerce repeatedly lowered the price of their original ore. Our annual ore export profit is only £50,000. If we sign this order, we can make at least half of the low-level magic stones. The low-level magic stones did not have much high mining costs, and coupled with some low-quality inventory, the Magic Stone Chamber of Commerce refused to purchase them at all, and had been piled in the warehouse for several years. Did it? This order must be taken. Nikolai slapped his thigh suddenly and grabbed the bronze hammer and reminded him. This mysterious forum member, whose name is Sir Suzad, do you know his identity? He didn't want to get involved in troubled incidents such as smuggling magic stones or hooking up with demons. Don't worry, I've made a deal with him before, and the cause was that strange ore. Well, there has not been much progress until now, but there has been a preliminary analysis direction. Nikolai frowned and shouted, don't mention your damn ore to me, tell me the risks of this transaction. Okay, well, this Mr. Kel'Thuzad is a combat mage, and I can basically confirm this. But there seems to be a spellcaster organization behind him, composed of combat spellcasters, which should be a civil organization that seeks ancient ruins to gain benefits. Nikolai asked in confusion, how do you know so much? The bronze hammer laughed and explained, which research-type spellcaster have you seen? Even the three-ring magic tricks have to be exchanged with others. Only those fighting mages whose minds are full of magic battles will be so knowledgeable. Shallow. I guess this batch of ores will flow into the civilian free caster group. After all, the goods from the Federation are not cheap, and civilian combat casters do not need to participate in the war stationed in the Evil Moon Mountains, so they naturally need multiple purchasing channels. Are you sure you won't be targeted by the Federation? This can be considered snatching a piece of fat from their mouths. Tong Hammer said disdainfully, so if you want to go to Allay to see the world, how could the Federation look down on the flesh on the mosquito's legs? Harvey looked at the reply to the order that Reiner took down from the teleportation array with satisfaction, picked up the quill pen and signed the magic pattern emblem symbol that belonged to him on the contract. This is a common anonymous trading method. You do not need to sign your real name on the magic contract. You only need to provide the emblem symbol corresponding to the magic pattern, which will also be subject to the contract limit of the magic network space energy. A low-level magic stone order of 20,000 gold pounds will be purchased at a 30% discount price of 5 gold pounds per magic stone, a total of 4,000 pieces. In his reply, the Frost Giant tactfully mentioned that there are currently no such many standard quality initial magic stones in his mine, so he can only supply about 500 pieces per month, but an additional 200 pieces with cracks or defects will be provided for free. Low-quality magic stones are used as compensation for delayed delivery. Harvey felt that this was a bargain. After all, inferior magic stones were recharged repeatedly for a limited number of times and were prone to burst or collapse. However, they were used as feed and they didn't care about their quality at all. There is no mistake. 619, 1 book, a book. However, he still planned to rub the bottom line on the opposite side again. He picked up the pen and expressed his dissatisfaction in his reply, and asked to increase the number of gifts from inferior magic stones to the same as purchasing magic stones. After thinking for a while, Harvey turned to look at Asterin, who was busy on the assembly line. How much magic stone do we consume every month to feed beetles? Asterin answered without raising his head, 2,000 beetles, 20 magic stones per day, 600 per month. I reminded you this morning that the magic stone inventory is only enough for 3 days. Increase the beetle breeding scale to 4,000. Asterin was stunned for a moment and asked unhappily, what's the use of just increasing the production of beetles? Now both energy gathering arrays are overclocked, aren't you shouting about the energy crisis every day? Harvey smiled and looked very confident. The problem has been basically solved. I also got the parts of 2 scrapped continental teleportation arrays from the Alchemy Exploration Club, which can be assembled into a brand new one. Really? The members of your MagicNet forum have such great authority in the Exploration Club that they can privately sell you alchemy products of this technology. Of course, I exchanged this with them for a lot of points, without spending a penny. This is not the first time that Harvey has done this thing of getting something for nothing in the MagicNet forum. Leaks always grow quickly after being cut off. As long as he doesn't use stupid means of killing the goose to get the eggs, the magic net forum itself is his biggest network and resource platform. After waiting for this group of new members to gradually get familiar with each other, Harvey plans to open up the invitation quota again, but this time he doesn't plan to do it like before, with each member being allowed to invite one person. This time, he plans to hold a bidding for quota purchase. Chapter 66. Vaughn and Wayne walked into the barracks one after another and were immediately surrounded by everyone. "Captain! Tell me quickly. What does the new weapon look like?" Several impatient soldiers forced them to sit on the chair and began to ask in a verbal way. Vaughn pursed his lips and forced himself to not laugh out loud. He glanced at his new team deputy Wayne. "You can say it." Wayne nodded and pulled out a magic gun from the long leather gun bag behind him and placed it horizontally on his leg. "What? Where is the new weapon? Isn't this the same magic gun?" Tommy shouted, and took the gun and checked it repeatedly, but found no difference. "This is indeed a new weapon." Wayne had a mysterious expression on his face. "Vayon and I were called over today just to test the gun. The first batch of recruited militias have now been reorganized by Pierce into a sharp gun team, all of which were issued magic guns for standard shooting training, but only 3 rounds of ammunition loading is not enough to form crushing firepower suppression in combat. So they also practice bayonet and spear throwing skills on weekdays. This new model of magic gun can be fired 10 times in a row after each recharge." "What? 10 consecutive shots?" A sound of air conditioning sounded in the barracks. Wayne looked around with a proud look on his face. "Now the laboratory has only rushed to make 50 new models, so don't imagine that everyone can have it," the sir said. "The top 5 results of mobile target shooting, only 10 are eligible to use." Vaughn, who had been silent, interrupted at this time. "The new model of magic gun doesn't need to be charged every time the shooting is finished." He took out a rectangular and flat metal box from his waist bag, and everyone with a puzzled look, inserted into the slot under the stock. The originally dim inscription symbol on the surface of the magic gun immediately lit up, which means that the gun has been charged and can be shot at energy beams at any time. Tommy, who was flexible, immediately reacted and said in surprise, "A magic gun that can be used and charged as you like? Then we can shoot with confidence even if we are fighting outside, and we don't have to worry about its energy running out." Vaughn nodded. "In the afternoon, Chief Pierce will distribute the new magic gun, and the ammunition. I will check the list of soldiers who are qualified to apply for weapons. Every time in the future, whether it is live fire training or combat missions, it is necessary to record the amount of ammunition that each person applies for." Everyone had another conversation. Just as Vaughn was about to raise his hand to stop everyone from quieting down, a sharp gathering whistle suddenly came from outside the barracks. "This is a signal that the entire army gathered." Pierce stood on the camp playground, looking at the soldiers lined up in front of him, and announced with a cold expression, "The Lord has an order to assemble a combat squad to go to the Ice Valley and establish a defensive outpost. Listen to the captain whom I read the name." He left the list. "Captain of the Sharp Gun." Vaughn was excited and stepped out and replied loudly, "Come." Pierce nodded slightly. "Draw 50 sharp gun soldiers to participate in this combat operation." The original first group of sharp gun recruited less than 80 players. Later, Pierce selected a portion of the second recruits to supplement them, gathering up 100 soldiers, including Captain Vaughn, Wayne, and other 10 others. Deputy leader of the famous team. Preparation Team 2, Captain Clot. The only recruit captain who stood out in the target competition also stood up. He is the recruit with the best training results among the 4 100-person reserve teams. Prepare the 4th team, Captain Tyon. Vaughn was a little confused. It was logical that he went to the front line against the invasion of evil orcs. In the Icefield Valley, it might not be enough to send such a few soldiers. It is different to confronting evil orcs head-on and firing cold guns at the lonely orcs when they are patrolling. Could it be that Chief Pierce intends to send all the tarantula alchemy beasts to the front line? What should I do if the patrol guards in the territory? Without the warning and tracking of the wolf spider beast, ordinary soldiers alone would not be able to deal with the evil orcs who were wandering over. If they lost the advantage of sneak attacks, there would inevitably be certain casualties. If the evil orcs occasionally break through the defense and enter the territory, Vaughn dare not imagine that those unarmed civilians would not know whether the soldiers would have time to rescue them. The sharp gun team stayed, and the other teams were disbanded on the spot. 2 hours later, we gathered and set off. Vaughn and Wayne looked at each other and understood that they were going to send out new weapons now. Duff held the 4 magazines and the new guns he had applied for with excitement and shouted to the other soldiers, "Hee hee, 40 rounds of magical ammunition, even if there are a group of evil orcs coming now, I am sure to name them one by one." "It's..." a veteran team deputy sneered and said, "Good guy, you think you are coming a bunch of wooden stakes, right? You are standing still and letting you shoot a target." Everyone burst into laughter and then began to check their new equipment. At about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the gathering whistle sounded again, and a battle team of 250 people gathered in the square and then slowly drove out of the territory. It took at least 2 days and 1 night to reach the ice-filled valley area with just feet. They needed to camp once in the middle, so they also brought several alchemy camel beasts and more than a dozen logistics personnel. As Vaughn expected, as soon as he walked out of the territory wall, he saw Mr. Astarin leading about 30 tarantulas beasts beside the road. There is no mistake. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 619, 1 book, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, a book. There are now about 50 tarantulas in the territory, which is equivalent to taking away most of the defense and vigilance forces in one go. But he also unexpectedly discovered that behind the tarantula beasts with legs and toes were more than a dozen strange-shaped alchemy beasts crawling, which were slightly smaller than the camel beasts, but they were still a giant compared to an ordinary soldier. Its shape is like a large carriage, with 6 metal lower limbs thicker than Vaughn's waist under its square body, which steadily supports the huge body of this giant beast. Standing in front of it at 1.9 meters tall, I'm afraid it's just half its height. "What is this?" Duff murmured in a low voice behind the team, and the other sharp-eyed soldiers also whispered to each other. Chief Pierce's cold voice came from the head of the team, "Keep quiet for me. That is the war-type alchemy beast newly developed by Lord. Now follow my instructions. All soldiers are in small teams, and every 2 teams ride a war beast." "Ah?" Vaughn was stunned, a little confused about what the commander was saying. "Is this really a carriage? But the mountain road is so rugged, can it really carry so many soldiers in the primeval forest?" As Darren raised his hand, the 13 war beasts obediently shrank their thick legs and squatted steadily on the ground, with a door-shaped opening that was 1 person high on their abdomen. Although Vaughn was puzzled, he still strictly followed the instructions and led 2 teams of soldiers into the belly of the war beast. The inside is quite spacious, 20 people squeezed together and did not feel crowded at all. They could also observe the situation outside from a small circular window with crystal lenses embedded on both sides. A small light magic stone was fixed to the top. Provide simple lighting for the soldiers riding inside. Duff was a little scared and leaned into Vaughn's ear and whispered, "This thing looks so scary. We even have to sit in its belly. What if I want to shit?" Astarin happened to be standing outside their war beasts, and laughed softly when he heard this. "Then you better pray that you can hold it in. Friendly reminder, this guy is alive." The hatch door on the abdomen of the war beast was closed, and Vaughn felt a constant slight vibration, and then he heard the heavy footsteps of the war beast. More than a dozen giant beasts carried more than 200 soldiers slowly heading towards the north, gradually disappearing into the dense primeval forest. Chapter 67. All ready? Shoot! Vaughn pressed his shoulder against the butt, aimed at an evil orc who was rushing in front, and pulled the trigger steadily. The evil orc who was running at full speed suddenly paused, and a charred blood hole appeared in the middle of his chest, and then he fell to the ground and then left silent. The 8th. He turned his head and headed towards the soldier who was also climbing on top of the war beast, loudly reporting his record. This is a way to motivate morale that Chief Pierce repeatedly emphasized when he was training all their grassroots officers. That is, the officer himself takes the lead and uses his strong record to inspire the courage and sense of honor of his soldiers. But his mind was actually blank. He operated the magic gun and continued to shoot according to the instinct accumulated during normal training. The combat team they were in had just arrived in the valley area when they suddenly bumped into a team of evil orc troops with a number of about 500 people. The other party seemed to have just experienced a pursuit and massacre of refugees, and was lazily in a mess. Wandering on the river beach. The wolf spider alchemy beast almost discovered the other party at the same time as the evil orc post, and immediately issued a warning to encounter the enemy. Pierce made a quick decision and let the war beasts carrying the soldiers line up and crouch down on the spot to form a solid metal defense line. All the soldiers of the sharp gun team climbed to the top of the war beasts and shot at the evil orcs gathered in the distance. The first wave of gunfire made the evil orcs rushing in the front row fall down like straw cut by a sickle. But there are a large number of evil orcs, and they are extremely agile in the mountains. They rushed to less than 10 meters in front of their defense line in just a few dozen seconds. The soldiers who were leaning down at high places could clearly see the ugly and distorted faces. Evil orc, ferocious fangs, and blood-red eyes as big as a copper bell. Arranged behind the war beast, the soldiers who did not have new magic guns began to shake the team. A tall evil orc, lucky enough to avoid a few shots, rushed to the feet of the war beast, kicked hard with both feet, and clinged to the body of the war beast, trying to climb to the top to attack the soldiers of the sharp gun team. "Captain! Be careful below!" Vaughn came to his senses, stretched out the barrel downwards, almost pressing against the evil orc who was climbing, and fired the shot. A stinking blood sprayed his face, as if it was mixed with a lot of broken brain matter. Vaughn didn't care about erasing the filth, so he quickly climbed back 2 steps, took the new magazine from the team's deputy Wayne, and replaced it with his trembling hands. On the war beast next to him, Comrade Duff also easily hit 2 evil orcs approaching, and was whistling at him with a smug expression on his face. "I have only selected a few names? What's there to show off?" Team Deputy Wayne glared at the other party. "All people pay attention. Free shooting. After the reserve team clears the bullets, the spear advances to stabilize the defense line." The reserve soldiers on the ground received the order and lay down through the gap below the war beasts and shot freely at the evil orcs outside the defense line. The old model of magic gun only has a load of 3 or 5 rounds, and it will be consumed in half a minute. The reserve soldiers immediately stood up, pulled out the metal spears on their backs, and poked the evil orcs who tried to penetrate into the defense line through the gaps on the bottom and side of the war beasts. Pierce stood on the top of a war beast, used his talent to easily avoid several bone spears thrown at him, and picked up the magic gun and specifically targeted the evil orcs wearing iron helmets and bone armor. "Call." This is what Lord Harvey told him, which is to capture the king first, or beheading. He was quite satisfied with the performance of these soldiers he brought. Although there was a small riot in the team after being approached by the evil orcs, the habit of strictly abiding by the instructions and acting in daily training still made them subconsciously choose obey. Asterin stood beside him, looking at the situation below and said softly, "More than half of the casualties, they are going to escape." Pierce turned his sight forward and found that there was indeed a trace of riots in the subsequent team of the evil orcs. Many evil orcs who fell at the tail of the team began to turn around and run towards the river beach. These brainless guys are not all brave enough to die. He paused, and asked Asterin cautiously, "Are we going to pursue?" Asterin leaned his head and said quietly, "You are the commander of this special operation. I am the officer responsible for manipulating the alchemy beast. What do you ask me for doing?" Pierce was choked and his face turned slightly red. "Order, let the spider beast chase." The reserve soldiers and the sharpshooters are in double formations, alternately covering, and advance towards the river beach. The 2 war beasts slowly moved their heavy bodies, giving way to a wide passage. The soldiers lined up according to the instructions and walked neatly towards the river beach. Along the way, the evil orcs who were hit by magic guns but were not killed immediately. The soldiers of the reserve team waved their spears and gave him a few repeated surprises. The wolf spider beast was 50 meters in front of the team, and tightly bit the escaped evil orcs. From time to time, some evil orcs who were chased turned around and screamed to counterattack, but were immediately attacked by the wolf spider who was good at group combat. The beast rushed up and torn to pieces. There is no mistake. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 619, 1 book, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, a book. Some soldiers of the sharp gun team with better shooting accuracy also raised their guns while shooting. Soon, all the evil orcs who fled in a panic were driven to the empty river beach without any shelter. The whistle of the command sounded from behind him, which was the command to let the soldiers of the sharp guns shoot uniformly in a half-squat posture. After a row of guns, dozens of evil orcs fell into the mud on the river beach. Less than 100 evil orcs left on the river beach were scared, and even the courage to raise their bone spears to throw them back and attack them disappeared. They threw down the spoils they had previously snatched, and jumped into the cold river water. "Swim wildly towards the other side." The order to stop chasing came, and soldiers holding spears stepped out one after another and began to carry out a new round of finishing killing work towards the evil orcs who were lying on the ground. Vaughn put down the magic gun that had been aiming flat and looked at the figure of the evil orc floating in the river. He whispered to Wayne next to him, "I never thought that evil orcs could be defeated so easily before." He stared at the slightly hot barrel of the magic gun, as if he was talking to himself, but with the weapon given to us by the Lord, even if the demons rushed in front of me, I dared to look at them without retreating. Pull the trigger. After many considerations, Pierce finally decided to set up the first outpost in the valley area on a riverbank highland. This place is not only conducive to observing and alerting the traces of evil orcs that can cross the river at any time on the other side, but also facilitates the construction of outpost fortresses to effectively defend against evil orcs' raids. This time, Lord Harvey specially asked him to bring a lot of cement, and there were several working alchemy beasts. He could build this solid cement fortress in up to 3 days. Camping on the gentle slope of the high ground, or setting the war beasts on the periphery of the camp as a defense, and arranging 3 shifts of patrols at night, and all the Tarantula's beasts were released to search for the surrounding vigilance. Chapter 68. Just as the sky was getting light, the camp was already filled with smoke. Vaughn walked out of the tent and headed for the temporary canteen where the aroma of oatmeal porridge was wafting. "Captain Vaughn. Good morning." Soldiers kept stopping to salute him, including veterans of the sharpshooters and new recruits of the reserve. Lord Harvey established a strict hierarchy in the army, which included that ordinary soldiers must stand and clench their fists to salute when they meet captains like Vaughn, or squad leaders and deputy captains. Vaughn returned the salutes with a stern face, but he couldn't help feeling a little elated in his heart. He was not proud of his higher position than those soldiers, but of the brilliant record of wiping out nearly 200 evil orcs in the direct battle against the evil orcs yesterday evening, with only 50 soldiers of the sharpshooters. And Vaughn himself completed a record of 33 kills. Even Mr. Astalin smiled and praised him in front of others as the sharpshooter in the sharpshooter team. He subconsciously raised his hand and stroked the badge he had been wearing on his left chest. It was the reward badge for the winner of the shooting competition that Lord Harvey personally gave him. Vaughn thought happily that maybe after all the evil orcs in the river valley area were driven back to the ice field, there would be another new medal here. Pierce and Astalin stood together, watching the alchemy beasts carrying construction materials back and forth on the high ground, and the logistics soldiers who directed the alchemy beasts to level the ground and cut down trees. "I will return to the territory tomorrow and report the battle situation and the next plan to Lord Harvey," Astalin said to Pierce with a tone of appreciation. "Now you are fully capable of commanding this combat team. I will implant the alchemy beast with the command and stay here. When I return, I will bring you enough supplies." Pierce watched Astalin and several alchemy beasts slowly leave in the direction of the territory. "Sir, the foundation and bottom wall of the fortress have been built. We only need to wait for the cement to dry overnight, and the outer wall construction can be basically completed tomorrow." Pierce came back to his senses, nodded and responded, "Yes, arrange all soldiers and alchemy beasts to camp inside the fortress tonight." The soldiers he arranged to be on guard at the river beach have sent back news that there are traces of evil orc sentinels appearing on the opposite side of the river bank, and they are also observing their own movements. It is estimated that those stupid guys could never have imagined that he would build a solid cement fortress out of thin air in just a few nights to firmly guard the pass where they crossed the river. Next, Pierce planned to strictly follow the previous plan of Lord Harvey. Focusing on the outpost battle in the river valley, he continued to attack the evil orcs who crossed the river to invading and wear down their manpower. This batch of soldiers brought here will be rotated with the new batch of soldiers brought by Astalin in a month, so that the existing military forces in the territory can conduct actual combat training in the river valley area. Just like the frontal battle last night, with less than a dozen lightly injured people on his side, he can easily annihilate more than half of the attacking evil orcs. As long as the magic ammunition provided by Lord Harvey is transported from the territory in an endless stream, the evil orcs are just moving targets that are alive and breathing. Wayne and Duff, the captains of the sharpshooter team, led their own 10-man teams to be responsible for the afternoon river beach patrol mission. Dave walked in front with a gun on his shoulder, humming a tune from time to time. "Can you be quiet for a while? It's affecting my observation of the river bank." Wayne couldn't stand it anymore and finally yelled. Dave rolled his eyes and said disdainfully, "Why are you panicking? I wish they would sneak over the river and give me a few more kills." Last night, Dave killed 18 evil orcs by himself, just one more than Wayne. He has always been petty, and now he is arrogant and will not miss any opportunity to mock the other party. "Fuck you. You have a shit luck once and you want to brag about it for the rest of your life, right? Yo-ho, then you can't even eat hot shit." The team members who followed in a neat line behind were all veterans. They secretly listened to their two captains bickering wildly, and their mouths were cramped from trying to hold back their laughter, but they didn't dare to interrupt at all. One of the soldiers turned his head leisurely and looked at the woods in the opposite direction of the river bank. Suddenly, he found that something seemed to be wrong. "Captain," I said, "there seems to be movement in the woods over there." The soldiers immediately took off their guns and aimed. "Wait!" Wayne raised his hand to stop them from shooting randomly under pressure. He shouted loudly, "Magic bullets are not shitballs pulled out of the sheep's ass, don't waste them." He and Dave looked at each other and understood each other. They tacitly slowed down their steps and slowly moved towards the woods with guns. The sound of grass leaves rubbing against each other in the bushes was heard, and then a fat grey-haired hare jumped out, scaring everyone. "Damn! This little dog scared me!" Dave cursed, reluctant to shoot with the gun, put the gun back on his back, took out the standard short knife issued by the soldiers from his waist, and rushed into the woods in a flash after the rabbit. Wayne had no time to stop them, so he could only wave his hand helplessly and let everyone follow him into the forest. Just treat it as a lunch with some game meat and vegetables for his team. When he caught up with Duff, he found that he was already squatting on the ground with a bloody short knife in his mouth, and skinned the fat rabbit with a grim smile. "There is no mistake, 619, one book, a book." After a while, this guy actually asked him to take out a rabbit nest. "Wayne, don't say I'm not interested enough. There are only a few small things. Let's not take them back, make a fire." The two soldiers rubbed their hands with a smile, preparing to pick up the dead branches and barbecue everywhere. There was a faint smell of fishy smell in the air. I don't know if the hair is too smelly or what happened. Wayne always felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. His eyes suddenly shrank and he looked at the slightly shaking bush behind Duff. "Duff! Be careful behind it." Duff turned around blankly and saw a tall evil orc suddenly pounced out of the bushes behind him, holding a short bone spear and stabbing him straight into his chest. The next second he was pushed away by someone and rolled and crawled aside. Wayne's gun barrel was almost inserted into the evil orc's mouth and fired, which directly flew off the back of his head. The evil orc threw himself on Wayne, and after a half-second of convulsions, there was no movement. "Wayne! This dog-fucking evil orc actually attacked us!" Duff quickly got up and joined forces with two soldiers who were closer to move away the body of the evil orc who was suppressing Wayne. My belly!" Wayne screamed. Only then did everyone find that there was a short bone spear in his stomach, and the blood was soaking out quickly through his black uniform. "Damn it! Tear a piece of cloth and bandage him." Duff stared at the messy soldiers with red eyes. "Damn, Wayne, I can see your intestines." "Fuck, you won't die." Duff cursed tremblingly while wrapping the wound on Wayne's abdomen with a strip of cloth tightly. He hesitated for a moment, holding the short spear pierced on his abdomen with both hands, and was about to grit his teeth and pull it out for him. Wayne suddenly held back his wail and stared at Duff and said angrily, "I think you just want me to die. Don't pull it away." He turned his head with difficulty and ordered the other soldiers, "Hurry up and take me back to the outpost." During training, he remembered that Chief Pierce said that if someone is injured, as long as he does not die on the spot, he will be carried back to the camp for treatment. Perhaps Chief Pierce brought a lot of magical potions from Lord this time, and he could immediately make himself survive by taking a sip. Chapter 69. There is an independent large tent in the camp of the outpost fortress, which was specially set up by Pierce according to Harvey's request. After Wayne was carried back on a stretcher with a short spear stuck in his stomach, he was sent directly to this tent. Wayne was still conscious and kept repeating nonsense such as "it hurts. Damn," with gnashing teeth. Two medical soldiers who were personally trained by Igno in the Territory Medical Hospital vomited directly after seeing the bloody wound on his stomach and the faintly visible white intestines. Fortunately, they quickly came to their senses and strictly followed the battlefield first aid procedures of the medical hospital. They used scissors scalded by boiling water to strip off the wounded's shirt, and then carefully cleaned Wayne's exposed wounds with the medicine prepared by Igno. After doing these two things, the two medical soldiers stood aside and no longer cared about Wayne lying on the medical table. "Is that all? You're just going to ignore him? The short spear is still stuck in his stomach." Dave's eyes widened, pointing at Wayne, who was becoming increasingly unconscious. A medical soldier explained, "The next treatment is indeed nothing to do with us. This is what Lord Igno has stipulated." After he finished speaking, he walked to the side and lifted a tarpaulin, revealing an alchemical instrument with a strange shape and a metallic luster. The next treatment will be handled by this medical alchemical beast. After he finished speaking, he embedded a magic stone into the charging slot of the alchemical beast and directly pulled the handle to start it. Everyone was stunned, staring blankly at the inscriptions on the alchemical beast's body gradually lighting up, slowly approaching Wayne on the medical table. The alchemical beast has 4 strange long arms of different shapes, one of which is equipped with a slender probe. It waved its arms and slowly groped Wayne's body for a while, and then directly stabbed the probe into Wayne's lower back. After just a few dozen seconds, Wayne stopped wailing and cursing, and fell asleep with his head tilted. The alchemist then activated another arm with a 3-toed claw hook, tightly grasped the short spear on Wayne's stomach, and pulled it out with a light tug. Blood immediately gushed out from the wound. The alchemist immediately waved the arm with the probe to absorb all the gushing blood, and then the other arm that had been idle sprayed a large mass of gel-like mucus, which was smeared all over the huge wound on the abdomen. After this operation, the bleeding stopped almost immediately. But the alchemist still did not stop the operation. It waved the last arm again, and with the 3-toed claw hook, it began to sew up Wayne's wound stitch by stitch. Dave was sweating and looking at the medic with trembling lips. He asked in disbelief, It just sewed up Wayne's stomach." The medic rolled his eyes and ruthlessly complained, "What else, do you just keep the ventilation open?" "What did you say?" Vaughn, who was responsible for patrolling another area, had just changed his shift when he heard the news that his team leader was seriously injured, and hurried back to the camp. Wayne's stomach was sutured up by the alchemy beast with needle and thread. The veterans of the sharpshooter team talked about it, and they all felt that Dave was exaggerating again. "It's true, I didn't lie to you, it's the new magic developed by the Lord," Dave explained incoherently, drooling with excitement. "I can guarantee that even if we get injured as badly as Wayne, that thing can save our lives." "Really? If our hands and feet are cut off by the evil orcs, can they be sewn up? What if the head is cut off? You can't sew it back after it's chopped off, right?" At first, Pierce didn't believe that these 2 alchemical beasts, which were temporarily added to the logistics team and looked oddly shaped, could play such an important role in his combat troops. But with the official completion of the outpost fortress, the patrol soldiers' alert range gradually expanded, and the direct encounters between patrol soldiers and evil orcs became more frequent. Although they had a powerful weapon like the magic gun, which was almost crushing, these soldiers who were very good at tracking the hidden evil orcs still suffered a lot. For half a month, there were soldiers who were carried back from patrolling every day and were attacked by evil orcs. They were sent to the large tent called Field Medical Center in a steady stream. Except for a few unlucky people who died on the spot without rescue, the rest of the lightly and seriously injured soldiers, after the seemingly rough treatment of the medical alchemy beast, were able to recover in a short time and stand up again. On the river beach in front of the outpost fortress, a pile of evil orc heads has been piled up like a small hill. This is done spontaneously by the soldiers at the outpost to commemorate their comrades who died unexpectedly in battle, and to deter the evil orcs who often appear on the opposite side of the river and patrol back and forth. No mistakes in one post, one content, 1-6, 1-9, 1 book, 1 bar. Some old soldiers whose close comrades were injured or died in battle even pulled out their fangs after killing the evil orcs, strung them together and hung them around their necks, and showed them off repeatedly in the camp. Pierce recalled what Lord Harvey mentioned casually when he talked to him about military culture. Anger and hatred can be transformed into combat effectiveness and cohesion to a certain extent. "Sir, the food reserves are only enough to last for 5 days, and the reserves of magic energy ammunition are running low. The soldiers can barely get less than 30 per person." The team leader in charge of logistics reported to Pierce with a booklet in his hand, looking worried. Pierce was also a little overwhelmed. It was the first time for him to lead soldiers to fight for a long time. Although Lord Harvey gave him the command and dispatch rights with confidence, he still had many things to plan. Stalin, who was supposed to return with logistics supplies in a month, did not come as promised. Pierce could only temporarily send a small team of soldiers who were good at hunting to go out and capture some wild animals every day as a supplement for the soldiers' rations. But the shortage of magic energy ammunition is a problem that cannot be solved by oneself. If the soldiers do not have the ammunition they are issued, they can only fight close to the evil orcs when they go out on patrol, and humans have no advantage in close combat with evil orcs. It often takes 3 or 4 soldiers to barely kill a strong evil orc, and they have to pay a heavy price of injury. In the past few days, the number of evil orc sentinels appearing on the opposite side of the river bank has been increasing rapidly. Pierce was worried that the other side had realized that the frequency of using the powerful weapons they had in small-scale confrontations was gradually decreasing, and they wanted to cross the river and counterattack. The novice commander stood on the sentry tower of the outpost fortress, looking anxiously in the direction of the territory. No wonder Lord Harvey always told me that in war, the most important thing is logistics support. Chapter 70. It's not that Asterin deliberately wanted to delay time and delayed leading the logistics forces to support the valley outpost. He and Harvey have been in a mess these 2 days. The most important development resource in the territory, the nest of the energy-absorbing beetle, unexpected situations occurred 3 days ago. The primitive nest that was originally dug out by the beetles suddenly appeared in a slight landslide. A larger collapse space below is exposed, and the depth is currently completely undetectable. When Harvey remembered this, he felt cold sweat. There has always been a huge cave underground in the main fort. If there were no reinforcement construction in the previous construction stage, I would probably not know. One day when I was sleeping, I would be buried alive in the ground as the main fort collapsed. He still didn't dare to take it lightly, so he quickly asked Reiner to dispatch all the working alchemy beasts to strengthen the wall parts of the underground laboratory and some areas of the original nest. However, if the situation of this cave is not confirmed, no matter how the main fort and laboratory structure is strengthened and improved, it will be useless. After all, Harvey knew clearly whether there was an unknown treasure buried in the underground cave in the core area of the territory he built on the ruins of the ancient mage's ruins, or a time bomb that could explode at any time. The beetles that were freely raised in the insect nest began to gather at the collapsed holes. It seemed that there were things in the caves below that attracted them to go. Asterin had been observing for a day and a night. If the hole is not sealed, I am afraid that all tens of thousands of beetles that are raised free of charge will be run away in a few days. I plan to send someone to the cave underground. Harvey had already vaguely thought of a possibility, but he did not dare to fully confirm it at the moment. Why does this deserted place located at the foot of the northern slope of the Divine Ridge Mountains appear in an ancient mage ruin? Why did they choose this place? Only by truly falling into the cave can this answer be solved. Asterin agreed with Harvey's idea, but absolutely did not agree with him going down to take risks himself. After all, the chance of emergencies in this unknown space is too high. Harvey is still in the critical stage of attacking to be promoted to the intermediate caster, and only one 3-ring magic is engraved in the magic pattern. If you encounter danger underground, it may be difficult to escape unscathed. Okay, Asterin, I know you're worried about my safety, but I have to go down and confirm this exploration myself, and I don't think exploring the underground cave can compare to the danger of exploring the space cracks of the magic net. With 2 powerful alchemy lives, Asterin and Lena, they escorted him, plus the beetle ore they assembled, and brought a few tarantula beasts that could flexibly climb. Harvey felt that this set of adventure configurations, it can basically avoid most of the dangers. Egno was recalled from the hospital to the main fort laboratory, and he needed to stay in the main fort when Harvey and the others were all down into the cave to deal with some possible emergencies. For example, send more alchemy beasts to the cave to support or rescue Harvey and others. Don't worry, I will stay next to the communication device without leaving any step. As long as I receive your help signal, I will immediately activate all the alchemy beasts in the laboratory. Several large-scale illuminated magic stones were installed on the wolf spider beasts. As they crawled up and down around ignoring the terrain, the general situation of the entire cave space appeared. This is indeed a naturally formed underground cave, and it seems that there is no trace of artificial residue. The entire space is about several times larger than Harvey's mainland fort, and there are dozens of stalactite columns of thickness that are several people hugging together. The surface of the ground is extremely dry, indicating that there should be no underground river passing by nearby. It's a place that is very suitable for use as a secret laboratory and storage space. Asterin walked around the cave stone wall and confirmed that there were no other entrances or corridors. It's strange. If it's a closed space, why can air flow? I don't feel lack of oxygen or chest tightness at all. As the only human being who came down, Harvey keenly discovered this problem. Lena pointed to the countless tiny cracks around the cave and on the top stone wall, and guessed, maybe these mountain cracks connect the cave and the cracks underground, causing air to enter here. He still remembered the sudden mountain vibration that they encountered when they looked at the northern slope at the top of Jackdung Mountain, which led to the collapse of the ruins of the ancient wizard. Sir, these stalactite columns in the cave should be able to support the stability of the cave structure, but I still think that some artificial load-bearing columns need to be added just in case. Harvey nodded, approving Reiner's cautious idea, but he always felt that he had missed some key information. By the way, where did the energy-sucking beetles that crawled down from the nests go? Reiner and Asterin also reacted and began to drive all the spider beasts, quickly searching for gaps in the cave mountain, but no trace of a beetle was seen. Harvey immediately called Egno, who was left behind in the laboratory, and asked him to catch several beetles from the beetle breeding room, put them in small iron cages and put them on a hanging basket to the ground. It's very simple. Release these beetles and follow their traces to know where the beetle army has gone. There is no mistake. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 619, 1 book, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, a book. After Harvey said that, he opened the iron cage fence and shook the fat beetles to the ground. Several beetles turned over with difficulty, turned around a few times on the ground like headless flies, and then immediately confirmed the direction and lined up like ants to crawl towards the stalactite column in the distance. Harvey and his companions followed closely, watching them climb to the stalactite column with a clear goal, then gently extended their slender tentacles to touch the stone column, paused for a moment, climbed directly onto the stone column, and then disappeared from the surface of the stone column in an instant as if melted. How could this happen? Reiner walked forward in surprise, stretched out his metal palm to touch the surface of the stone column. How did they disappear? This is indeed a stalactite. Can they penetrate the wall? Harvey thought of a somewhat whimsical possibility. Reiner, use the metal drill on your arm to try to drill a hole in the stone column. Reiner nodded, raised his right arm to activate the metal drill, and made a high-speed sizzling sound. The slender drill just touched the surface of the stalactite, and the scene of sparks or stone powder splashing that Harvey expected did not appear. The surface of the stalactite was like an eggshell, and immediately a large number of small and dense cracks appeared with the metal drill as the center. Astalin approached the stone column, bent his fingers and gently flicked the cracks of the stalactite, and those cracks broke and fell down with a rustling sound. The real core material inside the stone column was exposed, which was wrapped in the stalactite shell. How is this possible? Harvey was so shocked that he was stunned on the spot, and his mouth couldn't close. This entire stalactite column that required 3 or 4 people to hug was actually crystal clear inside, and it was shining like a pure gem. This is the original ore of magic stone. Chapter 71. Harvey had thought that the reason why ancient mages built a mage tower in this barren land must be because there were certain strange things here. But what he never expected was that the people built a tower here entirely because there was a magic stone vein deep underground. Moreover, in terms of the quality and type of the original ore, it is also an advanced charging magic stone, which is more valuable than elemental magic stone. The outrageous level of luck is even more incredible than the one who walked in the mine in the past life and kicked out an African star diamond. Harvey realized that he was sitting on a huge gold mine now. If he could not keep this secret, it was actually no different from sitting on an explosive barrel. The reason why those energy-absorbing beetles are attracted by magic stone ore and are absorbed and fused by raw ore is essentially because these ores are too high in quality and rich in pure magic energy. Instead, the beetles are found to be produced at the moment of contact. The transformation process of life forms to beetle ore. Harvey was a little doubtful that the densely packed magic stone ore columns in this cave would have been formed after a long period of time. Sir, how should we dig and dismantle these ores? Reiner looked at the towering magic stone pillar and fell into consumption anxiety after getting rich. Normal magic stone vein mining requires the whole of magic stone ore that is integrated with ordinary rocks to be peeled off from the rocks, and it cannot be broken or damaged, otherwise the quality of the ore will be greatly reduced immediately. But this magic stone pillar that was not accompanied by the rocks, but was directly formed purely, has never been heard of by Harvey in the past. It is definitely unrealistic to directly and violently excavate and smash the cylinder. Maybe such a large piece of magic stone ore will be destroyed by external forces and will cause an energy explosion. If the entire cave is blown up, it will be more cost-effective. Moreover, even if Harvey can now harvest a large number of high-level magic stone ore, in addition to satisfying the use of his own territory, he would not dare to take it out and trade it for sale at will, and exchange it for gold pounds. The flow of high-level magic stones, even if they only have a small amount of goods, will immediately cause price fluctuations in the magic stone market, and will be targeted by the investigators of the Federation who claim to be hunting dogs in minutes. Harvey could have imagined that the Union's combat mage group would directly attack the territory in the near future, and the fireballs and ice blades all over the sky would be washed away directly. The terrible scene. First, from the ore identification master in the forum, Mr. Frost Giant, we will find a way to obtain and cut and decompose high-level magic stone ore, and then consider the mining plan and use of this batch of ore. Harvey seriously warned his two assistants, you must not tell anyone about this mine vein, that Igno and Pierce need to keep it confidential for the time being. They now have too many people to contact with every day, and it is very easy to relax. Beware of leaks. Reiner and Asterin nodded at the same time to express their affirmation. Fortunately, this time, the cave exploration operation did not consider bringing ordinary soldiers and other auxiliary personnel. Otherwise, even if Harvey couldn't bear it, they would probably have to sneak out to Silence in the middle of the night. After returning to the underground laboratory, Harvey asked Reiner to arrange for the engineering alchemy beast to close the entrance of the cave, and let the bear guard alchemy beast directly station at the entrance, and then set up several automatically triggered alert alchemy beasts to ensure that there is no accident. He quickly returned to the study on the second floor of the castle and began to search for a precious book he brought to Jackdawtown when he left the academy. It is a book that is rumored to be written by a mysterious independent alchemist. It is believed to be full of all kinds of whimsical inventions and creations, almost all of which are fantasy delusions. Harvey's close friend and entrepreneurial investor at the academy, Ash Lambert, bought it for hundreds of gold pounds from a secret auction of a spellcaster out of curiosity and no place to spend money. He looked through it casually a few times, and completely lost interest and gave it to Harvey casually. Harvey has also briefly read some of the contents in it, believing that most of the ideas and creativity are indeed whimsical and completely impossible to realize in reality. But he just saw the thick and complete high-level magic stone ore pillars in the underground cave with his own eyes. Suddenly I remembered an idea described in this book. There is a higher-level teleportation array design idea that transcends the continental teleportation array. That can realize the bidirectional transmission of space planes, which is called the planetary plane teleportation array by the author. This plane transmission array does not refer to connecting reality with the magic network. Harvey's current express delivery array can achieve the interaction between the two. The plane transmission described in the book refers to the spatial plane between reality and reality, such as the direct teleportation of humans to the land of demons in a different space, the legendary hell in which the demon lives, or the underworld filled with death energy. This design has no basis or verification results, and it is not even in the experimental stage. It is a pure theoretical idea. Because to achieve the stage where magic array drawing and teleportation experiments can be performed, one condition that must be met is to directly build the teleportation matrix on a huge and complete high-level magic stone vein. Only by extracting the rich pure magic energy of the magic stone ore veins, continuously providing driving energy to the teleportation array, can the successful operation of the teleportation array be ensured. Anyone who has read the theoretical assumptions described in this book would probably laugh at them as a fantasy. But now, Harvey found that he seemed to have the prerequisite to meet this terrifying assumption: a complete and huge high-level magic stone vein. No mistake, just look at the book bar. Isn't it right under his butt now? But he has no interest in realizing the fantasy of teleporting from the human world to hell and the underworld. Let alone whether hell and the underworld really exist. Even if they do, he doesn't have the courage to teleport there to serve those terrifying alien races. Intermediate arcane spellcasters who are good at summoning magic dare not claim that they can fully control the lower-level demons and ghosts summoned from hell and the underworld. Not to mention himself, a rookie primary spellcaster. What he was really interested in was if the continental teleportation array could be transformed into an energy-gathering array like Unit 0 and Units 2 and 3 to provide endless magic energy for the magic network forum and alchemy life. Then, in theory, can the planetary teleportation array also be transformed into an energy-gathering array with more abundant energy supply and more powerful power? If the 3 energy-gathering arrays he was using now were small thermal power plants, then, after the planetary energy-gathering array was really built, wouldn't it mean that he had a small nuclear power plant? Harvey felt that if he wanted to completely get rid of the energy crisis caused by the rapid development of territory technology, he might really have to rely on a nuclear power plant to solve it. Chapter 72. 10 days later, in the backyard of the main castle of Harvey's territory, a newly built large workshop with a brick, stone, and cement structure was being capped. Harvey chose the site of this workshop in the backyard of his main castle, mainly to cooperate with the excavation of a sinking channel leading directly to the underground cave. In his plan, the construction location of the future planetary energy gathering array was set in this large workshop. Dozens of working alchemy beasts with slender arms were assembling the instrument body of the energy gathering array in an orderly manner. This was customized by Harvey from the Alchemy Exploration Association, the Dragonstone Chamber of Commerce and the Cave City, and was directly sent to the territory through the Magic Network teleportation array through the connections of the forum members. As for the improved magic array required to activate the energy gathering array, it needs to be drawn by Harvey himself. Astalin went to the Valley Outpost for support, and Reinhard also took on the security work of the territory. All research work had to be completed independently by him. The underground space of the new workshop is larger than the laboratory. Harvey moved all the eggs and larvae of the beetles to this place to prevent them from actively going to the magic stone veins in the cave and being absorbed and fused. The next step is to fully catalyze these beetle eggs and larvae to maximize the scale of reproduction. Before the Valley Outpost began to counterattack, Harvey had to ensure that all 500 soldiers in the territory were equipped with bullet-carrying magic energy guns. As for the more than 100 old-type charging guns that were eliminated, he left them for the newly recruited reserve team to use. In this new military factory, Harvey assembled 2 assembly lines that can be operated by 20 working alchemy beasts at the same time, one for assembling and producing bullet-carrying magic energy guns, and the other for manufacturing magic energy bullets. In this way, when the scale of beetle reproduction stabilizes in the later stage, it can basically guarantee the stable production of 100 bullet-carrying magic energy guns and at least 5,000 magic energy bullets per month. Get ready to start drawing the array. Harvey took a deep breath and picked up several bottles of magic solution sent by Egno. They were made by refining several kinds of magic materials needed to draw the array with the decomposition and reorganization magic array developed by Harvey. Then, the most important material for drawing the array, liquid mithril. Harvey summoned the hand of the wizard, held an illusory magic feather pen in his hand, dipped a little magic solution, and began to draw the energy matrix on the base of the planetary energy array. As the pen strokes drew out the magic lines with strange beauty bit by bit, some dots of light dust slowly floated out of the semi-finished array, began to attach to the main instrument of the energy array, and solidified into twisted silver-white inscriptions. This was the alchemical item enchantment ritual created by the author that Harvey found in the mysterious alchemist's fantasy book. If Harvey had a dual vision that could penetrate the 2 planes of reality and magic net at this moment, he would find that the energy networks in the magic net space, as dense as blood vessels, were reaching into the real world through the plane barrier. Each network, as thin as a capillary, had a strange connection with an inscription on the main body of the energy gathering array. This is the projection phenomenon produced in the magic net space by the super magic array that can teleport across the real plane. When Harvey drew the array diagram to the stage of 1/3, he felt that his mental power seemed to be exhausted. He barely persisted for a while, and his head had a slight pain as if his thoughts were drained, making him dizzy and sweating. Damn it! The book didn't mention that drawing the array diagram required so much mental power. Harvey originally thought that he only needed to ensure that the magic power was full and replenish it with charging magic stones at any time during the continuous drawing process. Now I really feel like I'm riding a tiger and it's hard to get off. If I stop drawing, I will fail, and all the precious magic solution and liquid mithril invested in the early stage will be wasted. Harvey, who had deeply remembered the truth that waste is shameful, decided to hold on for a while longer, and urged the increasingly unstable magician's hand to speed up the drawing. More and more light dust emerged from the magic circle, and the connection points of the array diagrams began to gradually emit faint energy fluctuations. Harvey clenched his teeth, his face gradually turned pale, and his arms that controlled the magician's hand began to tremble. The mental power stored in the sea of consciousness had been completely exhausted, and severe headaches and dizziness continued to hit Harvey's willpower. Suddenly, he felt from the dark that his magic pattern in the magic network space seemed to vibrate slightly, and the 3-dimensional magic pattern with a strange shape, the constantly changing protruding edges on the surface suddenly expanded. The entire polyhedral star-shaped magic pattern instantly turned into a sphere covered with spikes. Harvey only felt that a huge spiritual power like a tide suddenly surged into the sea of consciousness, and almost in the blink of an eye, his almost dried-up spiritual power became full again. The endless spiritual power from the magic pattern did not stop, and continued to pour into Harvey's sea of consciousness, expanding the entire consciousness space. Various chaotic perception fragments began to flash rapidly in Harvey's mind. The warm touch of the baby in the mother's womb, the novel experience of toddling as a child, the scene of diligent study in the Academy of the Dead as a teenager, the confusion and helplessness of entering the society as a young man. The memories of 2 lives intertwined and merged, constantly washing over and over in his mind. When Harvey came to his senses and opened his eyes, he found that he had unknowingly completed the entire drawing of the energy gathering array in the previous change. He closed his eyes again and began to meditate and found that his magic pattern had returned to the shape of a polyhedral star, and the edges and corners on the surface continued to bulge and change. Next to the ring position of the instant magic matrix in the magic pattern, several other empty matrix spheres suddenly appeared, rotating around the small sphere engraved with the 3-ring magic. I have been promoted. Harvey was stunned, a little unsure. Research-type spellcasters will indeed get the opportunity to be promoted after completing the analysis of magic knowledge and spells. No mistakes, just go to the book bar. But you also need to make a lot of preparations in advance, such as alchemy potions to replenish mental power, charging magic stones to restore magic power, etc. But I was just drawing a modified teleportation array, and when my mental power was exhausted, it suddenly triggered the movement of the magic pattern, and inexplicably completed the promotion from the beginner to the intermediate caster. Where did the huge mental power that poured into my sea of consciousness come from? Why did I suddenly remember many forgotten fragments of my previous life, and they were confused and merged with the memories of my present life after crossing over? Harvey always felt a little uneasy, and entered the magic network space again to observe his positioning magic pattern. To upgrade from a beginner to a mid-level spellcaster, you need to build your own spiritual anchor, but I have never tried to build it. Why did I get promoted inexplicably? He tried to use his now extremely full mental power to contact the mutated 3-dimensional magic pattern, and suddenly there was a bang in his mind, and the familiar magic network space scene disappeared. Harvey found himself in a completely lightless and quiet space at this moment, surrounded by a thick black like ink, as if suspended in the boundless dark universe. He felt vaguely that something behind him seemed to be calling him, and a long-lost sense of familiarity led him to turn around. It was a blue planet, with dark green and pure white patterns interlaced on the surface, presenting an incomparable strange beauty. It was floating far away from Harvey, seemingly never reaching it. Harvey's heart ached, and he almost shed tears. At this moment, he finally understood that his spiritual anchor had been formed. That was hometown. Chapter 73. Harvey was leaning over the desk, concentrating on drawing the analysis matrix diagram of the spell. This was a 5-ring improved spell he got for free when he spied on the academic exchange between 2 high-level spellcasters in the Magic Network forum Carol's Corrosion Field. A 5-ring spell that can be driven by elemental energy or cast with death energy and spell materials. When Harvey listened to the exchange between the 2 high-level spellcasters, he basically understood the tricks they described on how to draw the spell matrix, how to implement matrix analysis, how to configure spell materials, etc. Although he had just been promoted to a mid-level spellcaster by accident, he did not have any powerful spells that could be learned and mastered immediately that matched his level. The common spells of the Necromancer were mostly about dealing with corpses and ghosts. Harvey only considered mastering one of the categories. Biting off more than one bite is an absolute truth in the way of magic. So Harvey's idea is very clear. He must first learn some powerful spells that can achieve range damage, so that he can play a role in turning the situation around when the army is at a disadvantage in the battle with the evil orcs. Carol's Corrosion Field, a 5-ring improved spell, obviously meets Harvey's goal requirements. The spell material configuration requirements required for the spell are simple. The spell has a large strike range, and the corrosive poison mist can instantly cover an area of about 1,000 square meters, and cause the enemies shrouded in it to have many negative effects such as poisoning, dizziness, blindness, and mental disorder. In this situation, combined with the long-range precise point shooting of the magic gun soldiers, the effect is almost the same as shooting on the training ground. After completing the last spell matrix simulation on the white paper, Harvey left the desk and came to the spell potion configuration table. After the military workshop in the backyard of the main castle was built, the underground laboratory was transformed into a normal magic laboratory. In the huge underground space, in addition to the 3 alchemy energy gathering arrays standing in the center of the room, there is also a long metal table next to it, on which are placed 3 large magic brain devices. Harvey usually uses it to collect various magical knowledge from the forum. After all kinds of knowledge and information on the Magic Network forum, whether publicly shared or privately discussed, need to be transferred and sent through the Unit 0 energy gathering array. Harvey can very conveniently intercept and excerpt various contents that he thinks are valuable. Behind the 3 energy gathering arrays are several Magic Network transmission arrays that are activated all day long. Various letter scrolls or magic weapon materials and other items are constantly flashing in the center of the array. More than a dozen small working alchemy beasts are surrounding the array, picking and carrying these magic express in an orderly manner. Harvey's current main cash flow income depends entirely on this magic express delivery business. After all, it is impossible for a person to disguise himself as a powerful being and rescue 3 high-level spellcasters trapped in a rift in another space like last time. Harvey does not dare to promise such protection easily, otherwise he may have to fill in his own. The number of members of the forum has now grown to about 20 active users. He plans to wait for a while and hold an activity to bid for invitations to auction and cut another wave of high-quality leaks. Finally, the number of active forum members in the short term will be fixed at about 30. If the number exceeds this number, it will lead to too many people and eyes. Not only will the news of the administrator touring and the Magic Network forum be easily spotted by the Federation and other organizations, but even his own trumpet Kel'Thuzad disguised as a high-level necromancer will expose his rookie nature in the forum. Harvey sent a message to Reiner, who was busy outside, through a one-way communication device, notifying him to return to the main castle laboratory as soon as possible to assist in his upcoming magic analysis experiment. He took out several enchanted crystal bottles with different labels from a row of half-man-high transparent glass cabinets against the wall. These crystal bottles were all painted with alchemy arrays, which could preserve the magic materials in different ways to prevent their properties from changing or energy loss. A huge eyeball soaked in thick black liquid, a pale flower that looked like a painful human face after blooming, and a group of dark green mold that kept wriggling in the glass bottle and seemed to be alive. Harvey put these bottles and jars on the preparation table, took the metal protective mask and put it on his head, and began to prepare the magic potion through the crystal lens. Using the magician's hand to manipulate the tweezers and spoon made of pure silver, Harvey took these strange and rare magic materials out of the glass bottle. He almost held his breath to complete the operation. Although he was wearing a protective mask, he still did not dare to take it lightly. After all, according to the knowledge shared by members on the forum, the giant eyeball taken from the body of the mutated soul-devouring beast could cause a beginner spellcaster to fall into a state of mental disorder and soul loss if they stare at it for more than 3 seconds. And the bottle of dark green corruption mold is an extremely dangerous magic material. As long as it touches the skin, it will immediately begin to use the flesh and blood of living things to madly reproduce highly toxic mold, causing the parasitic target to rot from the inside out. Harvey will repeatedly use flames to sterilize all experimental instruments that have come into contact with mold after use, which is also the reason why the growth environment of this mold is naturally afraid of high temperature and flame. Through the decomposition and reorganization array drawn on the configuration table, Harvey refined and purified all these experimental materials, then mixed them together in order, and poured them into a small crucible engraved with a complex alchemy array to start refining. When Reiner rushed to the laboratory, Harvey was already waiting for him with 3 crystal test tubes filled with magic potions. "My lord, I remember Mr. Astalin mentioned that if the mental capacity is insufficient, it would be dangerous to rashly analyze high-level spells beyond the level." Reiner has been learning some basic magic theory knowledge from Astalin during this period, and he is no longer the kind of person who has never seen the world. No mistakes, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar. For Harvey, who has just been promoted to a mid-level spellcaster, to immediately want to analyze the 5th ring magic, in the eyes of any experienced spellcaster, it is a radical and risky behavior. Of course, Harvey couldn't explain to him the problem of his mental anchor that was far different from that of ordinary people. But he knew very well that with his current mental strength, as long as he didn't try to do high-level spells of the 6th ring or above, there would be no problem in dealing with the analysis of the 5th ring magic. Moreover, there are plenty of free casting rings in his magic pattern. In addition to the 3-ring creative spell, the Mirror Curse, which occupies 1 casting ring, there are still 6 remaining. After all, the spiritual anchor in the sea of consciousness of others may come from the secret knowledge of ancient times, or the solid faith accumulated by generations of families. The more extensive and profound the knowledge level of the spellcaster, the more firm their faith will, the more indestructible their spiritual anchor. And Harvey's spiritual anchor is an independent and complete civilization. Chapter 74. After a few minutes of rest and calm mind, Harvey quickly entered a meditation state and began to use his mental power to draw a matrix diagram of the 5 rings magic in the magic pattern. The surface of the 3-dimensional magic pattern as dazzling as a star continues to expand and contract, absorbing the mental power that Harvey continues to inject. Harvey seemed to be staring at his spiritual anchor through the magic pattern from the angle of the bystander, which was a reflection of a star floating in the endless void. This way of building a magic matrix model from a bystander perspective can only be achieved after the mental power and casting level reach a certain intensity, but Harvey can now do it in advance with his unique spiritual anchor. With a calm mindset that is almost non-living, Harvey drives mental power and magic patterns to achieve fluctuations at the same frequency, and begins to build a matrix model in magic patterns. The fluctuations of mental power cause the vibration and change of the magic pattern, and a trace of transparent to almost illusory lines appear out of thin air, starting to accurately combine with a strange rule to form a three-dimensional magic model. This level of magic matrix drawing requires the terrifying precision and stability of the control of mental power. The direction, angle, and coordination of each line need to be completely correct. This is a test of a spellcaster's knowledge and methods of magic principles. An important indicator of array analysis ability, countless primary casters are always trapped in front of the intermediate caster's rank because they cannot achieve perfect magic model construction. The magic matrix of Kirill's corrosion field was analyzed very thoroughly by advanced spellcasters in the Magic Net forum. After all, this level of improved magic is just an ordinary magic research case in their eyes. 1. Harvey benefited from the precise explanation and analysis of the magic principles of these bigwigs, and also tried to simulate and construct it many times. He has long been familiar with the key points such as the line direction of the matrix model and the spatial relationship of energy connection points. As the illusory lines condensed by the spiritual power in the magic pattern gradually aggregate, a complex but clear three-dimensional model is gradually constructed. When building the magic matrix, most primary spellcasters do not fully analyze and thoroughly grasp the key points and tricks, so they can only try slowly and repeatedly, relying on countless failures to gradually adjust and improve their construction methods until finally, the construction of the magic matrix is completed. Such water-fighting behavior will undoubtedly lead to a large amount of mental power consumption. Without the help of expensive mental power supplements, each failure will take several days to recover before making the next attempt. Harvey, who had freed key knowledge, did not have this kind of trouble. When his tremendous mental power was consumed to a small part, he had almost completed the rough matrix model drawing, and he could confirm that no one appeared in the entire drawing process. A mistake. When the last line of mental power is fused with an energy connection point, the entire magic matrix is completely completed, and suddenly there is a strong vibration, starting to condense at a strange frequency, and crazily absorbing the scattered in the magic net space. Magical energy. A rapidly rotating vortex appeared at the core of the collapse of the matrix model, absorbing the surging magic net energy and releasing an extremely bright dark green glow. When the light dissipated, Harvey saw a round translucent sphere on the magic ring inside his magic pattern, and there seemed to be a tiny green cloud floating inside. This is exactly Kirill's corrosion field magic matrix. Reiner accompanied Harvey to stand in an underground laboratory, in a specially opened magic test site. "Sir, do you really need to use these chickens, ducks, and geese to test the power of your new magic?" Reiner has always been this stingy. On the one hand, he hopes that the adult's new spells can be powerful and can look down on the enemy. On the one hand, he was reluctant to let go of the hundreds of poultry that he had finally raised, and was consumed in a magic experiment. "I don't know if it could be recycled after use and sent to the market for supply. I'm a plague-type magic. Don't you think of hitting these chickens, ducks, and geese anymore? Have I mentioned food safety issues repeatedly?" As soon as Reiner opened his mouth, Harvey could almost immediately guess what he thought. After all, this was the assistant who had been with him for the longest time and the first alchemy life transformed by him. Harvey held the prepared casting potion in his hand, gently unscrewed the seal on the glass test tube, and tilted it slightly with his wrist to let the casting potion flow out. At the same time, it cooperates with the chanting and casting spells to mobilize the magic energy stored in the body and deeply connect with its own magic patterns. The casting agent poured out of the test tube did not drip to the ground, but condensed into a ball of squirming liquid sphere hovering in front of Harvey. As Harvey finished casting the spell, he gently pushed the ball of suspended liquid forward with one hand, and flew towards the huge wooden cage placed in the center of the magic test site at an extremely fast speed, and exploded into a bang. A dark green fog that continued to expand was shrouded in it. The dark green fog continued to expand, quickly touching the solid walls around the test site, spreading towards the direction where Harvey and Reiner stood. The two had to leave the test site immediately and stood outside the transparent glass wall installed to observe the magic effect. "Sir, the smoke is so rich that you can't see the situation inside." Harvey laughed and said, "What's the hurry? Wait a few more minutes." He specially set up an underground ventilation tunnel connected to the outside of the territory wall in the magic test field, and installed a high-power exhaust device driven by magic energy, which can greatly avoid the magic experiment from contaminating the laboratory and the areas where the residents work and live on the ground. 10 minutes later, Reiner turned the ventilation lever, and the huge wind force completely sucked away the fog that dimmed a little, revealing the lonely huge wooden cage in the center of the test field. Reiner kindly handed Harvey a protective mask, and walked directly into the test field. After all, alchemical life is naturally immune to toxins and plagues. No mistakes, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 book, 1 bar, take a look. Hiss, so disgusting. Reiner pinched his bare metal nose in a fake manner, looking at the various poultry lying in the wooden cage. They all died in a way that all their hair fell off, and their flesh and skin were eroded, and they looked extremely miserable. Reiner picked up a knife and carefully dissected a goose. He found that its internal organs were also corrupted to a certain extent. There were patches of mold growing on the surface of the organs. As Reiner continued to turn the internal organs with the tip of the knife, the mold was still spreading and multiplying in the dead goose at a very fast speed. Use the flamethrower to burn all these corpses. And you, Reiner, you also need to use high-temperature steam to disinfect your whole body. Harvey strictly followed the experimental procedures and asked Reiner to quickly dispose of the poultry corpses that might contain living mold. A very good intermediate plague spell. Not only can it effectively kill the target on the spot, but it will also leave a part of the plague mold that can proliferate and continue to infect and parasitize. Harvey can already foresee what kind of horrible chain reaction will be triggered if this spell is cast in a dense group of enemies when the evil orcs are attacking in large numbers. As for the possibility of accidental infection during the battle, Harvey also prepared a precautionary plan in advance, which was to use alchemical instruments that spray flames to collectively burn and bury the corpses of the evil orcs, and distribute the magic epidemic prevention potion specially prepared by Egno to his own soldiers. After all, as long as this kind of mold is not parasitic in the body and exists on the surface of the body for no more than a few hours, it will be killed and inactivated by the scorching sun and the temperature generated by boiling water. The prelude to the plague war will be opened by me, the only spellcaster in the territory. Chapter 75. Wayne, pay attention to the enemy on the left. Vaughn removed the empty magazine, took out a new magic bullet from his waist and filled it into the gun chamber, poked his head out of the trenches, aiming at an evil orc who was sprinting to 100 meters away from the position, and decisively slashing. Trigger. The evil orc's body shook, and a huge torn wound broke out on his abdomen. The blood and broken internal organs fell to the ground, and his body fell heavily to the ground. 138. Vaughn turned his head slightly and shouted loudly to the other soldiers crawling on both sides of him. Since a few days ago, Pierce took the 50 members of the sharp gun team to sneak across the river while taking advantage of the thick fog in the morning, and touched a vicious orc camp near a vicious orc camp on the river bank, and sent a wolf spider beast to drive the evil orcs out of the camp. The chaos was drawn out, and the line was lined up and shot at least 200 evil orcs. The entire dozens of evil orc tribal camps distributed across the river bank seemed to be instantly irritated and began to cross the river and fight towards them with great momentum. This is what Pierce wants. According to the tactical guidance manual given to him by Lord Harvey, he set up 2 lines of defense on the river beach and dug several deep trenches, 2 horizontal and 4 vertical. 30 veterans of the sharp gun team with excellent record were arranged on the first line of defense, and when the evil orcs were still scattering in the river, they began to call the magic gun freely. The river water less than 100 meters wide was stained red by the blood of the evil orcs. A large number of corpses were quickly rushed downstream in the turbulent river water. The surviving evil orcs dived desperately under the surface to avoid shooting. When the evil orcs finally landed on the river bank safely, Pierce quickly commanded the soldiers to evacuate the first line of defense and retreated along the longitudinal trench to the second line of defense on the high slope. When the wet orcs were still struggling to fight against the mud on the river beach, the soldiers on the hillside had already begun to shoot accurately and freely. When Defoe raised his gun and shot an evil orc in the chest, he planned to turn the gun and fire. The inscription light on the gun's body had already been extinguished, which meant that there were no magic bullets in the bullet bay. He lowered the gun in disappointment, took out the magazine from his waist and started to load it. At the same time, he did not forget to chat with his comrade Tommy next to him. I said, when Chief Pierce raided the evil orc camp that morning, he clicked the dead one. The evil orc wearing a silver crown must have a great background. Tommy also cleared the magazine and responded to Duff while loading it, I think. Otherwise why would they be so crazy today? Have you noticed that guy? Its silver crown will definitely be picked up if it is picked up. It's worth a lot of money. Vaughn ran back and forth in the trenches with his gun and hunched over in the trenches, commanding the soldiers who dispatched the sharp gun team to meet the enemy. Duff and Tommy were passing by, and aimed at their butts and kicked them one by one. Pierce stood on the post tower of the outpost fortress, squinted his eyes and looked across the river. The supervisual distance provided by the vampire talent allowed him to clearly see a dirty and broken crimson flag erected on the other side. It should be an emblem from a large evil orc tribe, which seemed to be a pair of sharp interlaced fang patterns. Unfortunately, Pierce did not understand the history of these alien races at all. He turned his head and ordered to the messenger, "Soldiers, go and raise our flag." "As for your order." "Sir." The commander responded, then turned around and climbed onto the wooden ladder and slid down the sentry tower. After a while, a black flag was spreading in the wind on the towering flagpole of the outpost fortress, depicting a golden fortress in the middle, with crossed magic gun patterns on both sides. "This is Lord Harvey's territory emblem, which was recently made. It was brought by Asterin after it came out. Following this, there is also a combat plan written by Lord Harvey himself trying to cross the river to launch a raid, lure the evil orcs to counterattack, and form an active tug-of-war situation, which will help consume their vitality in our training plan." Pierce roughly understood Harvey's tactical ideas and implemented them strictly according to the plan. Now it seems that the results are indeed good. Including the new batch of reinforcements brought by Asterin's return to the outpost, nearly 350 soldiers have been put into operation at the River Valley outpost, and the territory has begun a new round of recruitment, and subsequent soldiers participating in the rotation of operations. It will only increase. With rivers and fortresses as positions in the defense system, Pierce believes that these evil orc soldiers in front of him cannot be the opponent of his soldiers. The only thing to consider is when the possible spellcasters in the evil orc tribe will participate in this tug of war. No matter what, both sides are fighting in different places. The evil orcs do not know how to farm and rely on plunder to maintain supplies. The herds and animals that rely on for survival are trapped on the ice field and cannot migrate with them. Now their logistics are obviously tighter than their own. What's more, there are war beasts and alchemy camel beasts that can walk on flat ground in the mountains as transportation vehicles. The tug-of-war on the river beach lasted for about a morning. The evil orc barely advanced to the second line of defense. After leaving more than 100 corpses, he retreated to the other side of the river and set up camp on the spot, but still refused to give up for the time being. Pierce was overjoyed, afraid that they would never return, so he quickly arranged a few soldiers who could do the water to go around the upstream and set up a raft to wait for instructions. At night, he would continue to tease these guys who were on the verge of their heads and never let their blood pressure go. "Lower your head, calm down and retreat. There is no mistake. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 619, 1 book, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, a book." Lord Harvey's tactics of attracting enemies were listed in 7 or 8. Pierce thought proudly that after he used it, he didn't know what wonderful things would be on the face of the migrated evil orc from the other side. Expression. "I couldn't beat it, and I had no place to run. I was going forward to get a magic gun from a human being. There were demons raging in my hometown base camp behind." Asterin climbed up the sentry, stood behind Pierce and watched the soldiers who were cleaning up the mess on the river beach and seizing the spoils. He couldn't help but sigh. "I didn't expect that in just 3 or 4 months, Lord Harvey, and you can turn a group of rammed refugees into well-trained soldiers." He blinked at Pierce and joked, "Especially you, who was a hunter who made a living in the mountains half a year ago, but now he has the ability to command 500 soldiers who obey orders." Pierce's face turned slightly red and responded a little embarrassedly, "That's because Lord Harvey and Mentor, you are willing to trust and teach me without reservation." Astalin laughed, stretched out his metal palm and patted Pierce's shoulder, and said with a very gratifying tone, "Before I came, Lord Harvey said half-jokingly to me, he wanted to see if you were to command the existing ones. I wonder if the troops with more than 10 times the strength will bring him surprises." 5,000 soldiers. Pierce opened his mouth blankly, and his eyes were almost bulging out. Lord Harvey really dares to think. Chapter 76. The next morning, the thick fog in the mountains and forests had not yet dissipated, and the rumbling drums and horns began to sound again in the evil orc camp that had been noisy all night. Last night, Pierce asked several teams of soldiers to float down from the upstream on rafts, approached the river bank and camped at the evil orc camp on the river beach. Standing on the raft toward the place where the campfire was shining, fired a few random shots, regardless of whether there was any. If you don't hit the target, you will immediately evacuate downstream. Almost every hour, the evil orc camp will stir up a noise, or the screams of unlucky people who have been inexplicably shot by cold guns, and they will almost never settle down. Sure enough, just as dawn, these evil orcs who had suffered cerebral hemorrhage all night immediately roared and started crossing the river again. Pierce could see their hideous and angry facial expressions through the thick fog and their blood-filled eyes that had been stuck all night. A cool mountain breeze blew, and Pierston felt refreshed. He stood on the whistle tower and raised his head in the wind and took a deep breath of fresh air. The air in the early morning seemed to be mixed with a pungent smell. It was not the smell of blood and rotten corpse that often appeared on the battlefield, but it was similar to a fishy smell of meat that had been fermented for a long time, and mixed with some herbal fragrance. It seems to be mixed with a little oil. The Blood Clan's talented sense of smell is extremely sensitive, but if the smell is not there, Pierce dared not be completely sure, and subconsciously turned to look at Asterin, wanting to seek his advice. "Teacher, I seem to smell a strange smell. It shouldn't be here. It's unsense." Asterin nodded. He is now a pure alchemy life and has lost all his sense of smell, but as a Blood Clan in the past, he naturally understood Pierce's current feelings. "Don't doubt it. If you are sure that this smell exists, it must exist. The talented sense of smell of the Blood Clan will never deceive you." Pierce immediately had the confidence and immediately ordered the messenger, "Let the soldiers evacuate from the first line of defense in advance and defend the second line of defense." As soon as he finished speaking, a noise came from the river beach, accompanied by countless screams and roars. Pierce and Asterin looked closely and found that at some point at the bottom of the river, an extremely huge beast-headed and human body monster suddenly emerged. That strange pungent smell became even stronger. "Not good. Go quickly. Let the soldiers evacuate the defense line immediately and retreat to the fortress." Pierce felt a bad premonition in his heart, and loudly urged the soldiers who were sending the order. "Captain! Captain! Commander asked us to evacuate directly from the defense line and retreat back to the fortress." The messenger rushed all the way into the trenches, got up and spit out a mouthful of mud, and roared loudly against Vaughn's ear. A terrifying beast-headed monster crawled out of the river, wrapped in the rotten mud at the bottom of the river, and its body was covered with various ugly suture scars. The skin was pale and greasy. A pair of crooked and bulging reds were placed on the swollen beast's head. Giant eyes. The huge body more than 5 meters high covered the evil orcs who crossed the river and slowly advanced towards their first line of defense. Vaughn discovered that the evil orcs on the other side of the river were beginning to assemble again, and they seemed to be waiting for the opportunity for the giant beast to break through the defense line. He organized 3 volleys, and except for killing several evil orcs who were wandering beside the monster, he left dozens of less obvious charred gun holes on the giant beast. This guy is not afraid of shooting at any angle of the magic gun, and even aiming it at its head will be useless. Vaughn didn't even see blood coming out after it was shot. What kind of monster is this? Escape, we evacuate directly, Duff. Take your team and stay with me for the rear. Everyone followed the orders in unison and began to organize their own teams to evacuate to the fortress in an orderly manner along the trench excavated longitudinally. Vaughn led himself and the 20 veterans of the DAF team of the sharpshooter team to retreat along the trench to the second line of defense, set up a shooting position, and delayed the evacuation time for the retreating comrades. The giant beast took heavy steps and easily leveled the earth buns and trenches piled up on the first line of defense. It turned its swollen red eyes in an extremely slow manner, as if searching for attack targets on the battlefield. Vaughn held the magic gun in his hand tightly, lay down in the trench and secretly observed the giant beast. While its sight had just swept across the area where it was, he immediately poked his head slightly, aimed at the other party's giant eyes and pulled the trigger. The eyeball that he locked up exploded and spurted out a large stream of black and red pus. Even if it was a distance of dozens of meters, Vaughn could vaguely smell a strong smell. He shrank his body back in the trench, he couldn't help but retching twice in pain. Duff next to him was even more stinky and tears flowed out of his eyes. For a moment, various dry retching and coughing from other soldiers came from the position. "Go, let's retreat too, Captain, it smells so smelly, give." Vaughn nodded, turned around and waved quickly to the soldiers on the outpost fortress walls, seeking cover for retreat. Everyone jumped out of the trench one by one, arched their bodies and ran wildly towards the main castle. Vaughn deliberately slowed down and fell behind, turning back from time to time to observe the enemy's distance. The evil orc hiding behind the giant beast saw the soldiers starting to escape the battlefield, and immediately rushed over the giant beast and rushed towards them. Several short bone spears whizzed over Vaughn's body, scaring him. I was sweating all over. The soldiers on the fortress wall also began to raise their guns and fight back, providing cover for their retreating comrades. There is no mistake. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 619, 1 book, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, a book. Vaughn suddenly felt a strong wind coming from behind him, as if a huge object was attacking him out of nowhere. He subconsciously jumped forward, and noticed a huge black shadow passing over his head and smashing into the group of soldiers running in front of him. It was a rock bigger than a man, lifted up from the soil by the giant beast and thrown over. An unlucky soldier was directly pressed under the rock with his upper body, and blood oozing out from the cracks. He was obviously dead. There were several soldiers on both sides who were affected by the thrown stones and fell to the ground and rolled and screamed in pain. Although the others were scared, they did not forget to rescue their companions. They quickly pulled them up from the ground and dragged them back. Vaughn and Dave looked at each other, and rushed forward together to pick up a soldier whose legs were broken and the most seriously injured, and ran away, dripping blood along the way. Several huge boulders flew over and hit the wall of the outpost fortress heavily, but the damage caused was almost negligible. After all, it was a cement wall made of concrete and stone strips, and only a few small wall fragments broke. Vaughn and Duff's team rushed back to the fortress dangerously. Two huge alchemy beasts stood up and blocked the gate of the fortress tightly. Tell the soldiers not to waste ammunition and try to attack the beast again. Astalin suggested to Pierce, I suspect this is a kind of stitched corpse puppet made by the evil orc spellcaster. Among them, there must be an undead spellcaster who is good at using death energy like Lord Harvey. Pierce looked at the bloody bodies of 7 or 8 soldiers lying under the city wall, feeling extremely heartbroken. They were all the first batch of veterans he recruited and trained personally. They were less than 50 steps away from retreating to the fortress, but they died under the stone-throwing attack of the damn corpse puppet monster. On the riverbank in the distance, several corpse puppets of the same size appeared and were slowly advancing towards the outpost fortress under the cover of the evil orcs. Ask Lord Harvey for help. Pierce's eyes widened and he gritted his teeth as he ordered the messenger. Chapter 77. Harvey looked at the outpost battle report sent in real time on the teleportation array, frowned and said nothing. Sir, why not send me to the front line to reinforce Pierce and the others? Egno of the Mixed Elf tentatively suggested. He had been in Alea and several wizard kingdoms in the past, and sometimes he would risk serving as a spell consultant for the Noble Lord or Spellcaster organization, with some small-scale combat experience. Reiner was also eager to try. Sir, I can also go to the front line to reinforce. As long as I get a few beetle ore, I will find a way to stare at the giant beasts to death. Harvey shook his head with a wry smile. Asteron's alchemy body is an auxiliary type. Its power is too low and it is impossible to use the energy beam of beetle ore to attack. Reiner can barely activate it, but it is also inevitable that it will be overheating and downtime. There are currently less than 200 regular soldiers left in the territory, and they are already a little short of being responsible for internal and external patrols and public security. Although more than 300 reserve militias have been recruited urgently recently, it will take some time to complete their basic training. Moreover, the output of his own magic guns and magic bullets cannot meet the supply of 1,000 combat troops in a short period of time. It is unrealistic to send Reiner or Egno to reinforce the front line. The evil orcs will not only have one spellcaster, and they cannot always let people in the territory who are responsible for important work fill in the front line to participate in the battle. Renner, you immediately reply to Pierce and ask in detail about the evil orc caster who appeared on the battlefield. If they don't know, they must find a way to get its information immediately. Harvey paused and continued, it must be confirmed that the other party is indeed a deceased spellcaster, and the giant beasts that appear on the battlefield are indeed its undead corpse puppet. Reiner nodded and immediately went to reply to Pierce. The reason why Harvey did this is because he already had a preliminary support combat plan in his mind. Although it was a bit whimsical, if it could be implemented successfully, it would become his powerful killer weapon in the future. His plan is to lock the opponent's positioning magic pattern in the magic net, and then Harvey himself enters the magic net, and directly smash the opponent's magic pattern with an energy beam to achieve a super long-distance kill across the space plane. The most difficult thing about this plan is how to lock the other party's positioning through the magic net. But if the other party is sure to be an alien undead spellcaster, it will be easy to solve in Harvey's opinion. The undead spellcaster has a close spiritual connection with his undead creation, and no one knows this better than Harvey. The mental power of manipulating living zombies or sowing zombies is the masterpiece of the undead mage after all. Then it is not difficult to find a way to reversely lock the caster target through the opponent's undead creations and follow their spiritual connections. Harvey only needs to simply modify the contact instrument of the magic net for a magic brain, and retain the positioning array and information transmission inscription. Pierce came to the fortress again to observe the corpse puppet beasts below. He watched them wandering back and forth in a very disgusting manner, and grabbed the dead evil orc corpses on the ground with his huge palms and stuffed them into the entrance. Chew and swallow. Last night, he asked several veterans to sneak out of the fortress while taking advantage of the night to snatch the bodies of several comrades and companions who died not far away. Although it was a bit incomplete, it was better to be eaten by this disgusting giant monster. It's better to drop. Asterin has confirmed in accordance with Lord Harvey's instructions that there are indeed one or more evil orc priests in the evil orc tribe on the other side, and they are undead spellcasters. The dozen giant beast corpse puppets that surrounded them outside the outpost fortress could not have appeared suddenly one night. They must have been sent here to participate in the battle after the other party was transformed and created in advance, in an attempt to reverse the situation on the battlefield. The siege of the outpost fortress would not make Pierce anxious at all. Asterin has built a transportation array in the fortress. As long as the production and supply of the territory is provided, a steady stream of logistics supplies will be delivered safely within the fortress. But more and more evil orc tribes gathered on the other side. If the outpost is always besieged, waiting for the evil orcs to cross the outpost to approach the empty territory, is what Pierce really worried about. Find out a way to use dead corpses as bait to let those giant beasts swallow this thing. Asterin handed over with a metal sphere engraved with countless small inscriptions. Pierce subconsciously took it and found that the fist-sized sphere could be twisted and disassembled. There was also a miniature precision magic array pattern inside, and a magic stone was embedded separately to provide energy for it. Isn't this Lord Harvey's magic network teleportation array? Pierce studied with Asterin for a long time, and he didn't know anything about magic knowledge. Asterin smiled slightly and explained, our adult has a genius creative idea again. He wants to complete a silent long-distance sniper. How to operate it specifically, we just need to wait and see the results. Pierce turned to order the soldiers without any suspicion. Go to the logistics and catch 2 fat pigs. The evil orc camp across the valley, in a huge camp with crimson flags hanging. The evil orc leader wearing a golden crown pinched a wine glass made of a human skull and sat on a fur chair and swallowed the wine in the glass. Priest, when can we smash that damn stone turtle shell built by humans? The language of the evil beastman is very similar to the language of the demons, with short sentences in a paused tone. The old priest wore a strange high crown with 4 blackbird feathers on his head. He squinted his eyes and was silent for a moment before slowly answering, why smash it? Surround them and starve them to death. He looked up at the leader, with a trace of worry in his eyes. I don't know why humans have so many magic weapons. Too many of our people have been killed and injured. No mistake, 1 sentence, 1 content, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 look. The leader slammed the wine glass on the armrest of the chair and said angrily, that's why I want revenge. Let your corpse monster attack. Don't delay any longer. The old priest stared at the leader and looked at him for a moment, until the other party couldn't stand the pressure and turned his head slightly. The priests were sent by the royal court to assist the tribes, big and small. Although the leaders had absolute power in the tribes, they had no way to force them. Don't forget, our goal is not revenge, but the human kingdom and land in the southern border. The priest stood up after saying this lightly, and walked out of the tent with staggering steps. As soon as he reached the door, he suddenly shook all over, and then began to tremble violently, his legs softened and fell to the ground. Immediately, the guards on both sides rushed over and turned the old priest's body over and laid flat. The evil orc leader was stunned, and also rushed forward, muttering in his mouth, old thing, is he going to die? The old priest's eyes bulged blood red, and the skin of his head was covered with hideous blue-red blood vessels. He kept making hoarse sounds, as if his neck was pinched by an invisible hand. Go find a witch doctor. The leader kicked the guards beside him, and leaned over to get close to the trembling old priest. I have sent someone to invite the witch. Before he finished speaking, the old priest's swollen head suddenly exploded with a bang, and blood mixed with scarlet brain matter sprayed all over his head and face. Chapter 78. Harvey stood quietly in the magic network space, watching the magic pattern in front of him, which was originally flashing with black spots, shattered and decomposed directly under the impact of the energy beam, and then annihilated in the magic network space. What a magic version of tactical missiles, long-range decapitation operation. He laughed at himself, then retracted his mental power and exited the magic network plane. Reiner picked up a page from the communication array, glanced at it roughly, and immediately reported to Harvey with surprise, "My lord." Pierce sent a message that the corpse puppet monsters surrounding the outpost suddenly lost control and disintegrated, and shattered on the spot. Sure enough, it succeeded. Harvey was delighted, and then he remembered many details about dealing with the Necromancer. Tell Pierce and the others that there may be plague in the body of the Necromancer's stitched corpse puppet. Soldiers must take anti-epidemic medicine and repeatedly burn the corpse puppet fragments with flames. Don't take it lightly. Understood. The soldiers at the valley outpost stood on the fortress wall and saw this scene, and they all raised their guns and cheered. Teacher, the master's plan really succeeded. This is too incredible. How did he use that metal ball to kill the evil orc spellcaster remotely? Astalin looked at the chaotic evil orc camp on the other side, shook his head and sighed, I don't know either. The master's research on the magic network space is far beyond that of ordinary spellcasters. Even I can't understand the mystery. Pierce didn't bother about the answer to the question. In his opinion, it was enough that Master Harvey personally took action to successfully solve the dilemma of the outpost being surrounded. We'll observe for another day. If there are no signs of other spellcasters on the opposite side, we'll have to get back at them. The teleportation array sent hundreds of magic bullets and the newly assembled Wolf Spider Beast Type 2. Based on the original Wolf Spider Beast, a magic-driven flamethrower was added, which can effectively cause fire damage to the enemy and assist in burning the enemy's corpse. The territory sent a total of 20 units, plus the 30 original models currently available at the outpost. Pierce already has a 50-unit alchemy beast combat team. Only by really fighting with this group of wolf spider beasts can you know how useful these metal guys are. Although they look as scary and disgusting as giant spiders, their 8-pointed legs are agile and can climb and jump regardless of the terrain. They also have the ability to move at night, and as a reconnaissance, patrol, and alert force for the outpost, they are simply all-powerful. The most important thing is that they seem to be very good at fighting in groups, whether with their own kind or ordinary soldiers whom they regard as their own kind. Pierce even saw the wolf spider beasts picking up injured soldiers and trying to drag them back to the fortress. There were also many times when the soldiers retreated, the wolf spider beasts took the initiative to lure the enemy to divert their attack. Master Harvey has always said that these alchemical beasts are living creatures with life and thoughts. Is that what you mean? The giant war beasts are also, but it is said that they were accidentally captured and transformed from a group of mammoth beasts that migrated to the nearby area, and there are only so many of them. They are like Reiner and Astalin, living metal life. The next evening, the soldiers who had been holding back for 3 days finally came out of the fortress, stepped on a metal trestle built by the huge war beasts in the river, and began to attack the main camp of the evil beastmen with the cooperation of the wolf spider beasts. It seems that because of the accidental death of the spellcaster who was the main combat force, most of the evil beastmen in the camp evacuated to the farther valley direction. Less than 500 evil orcs were left, still trying to carry some heavy looted materials, but they were intercepted by soldiers crossing the river at night. Under the attack of the continuous magic guns and the fire-breathing wolf spider beasts, this evil orc baggage team, which was obviously not fully equipped, quickly collapsed, leaving hundreds of corpses in the camp, and the survivors fled into the dense forest. Pierce was not worried about their escape, because the wolf spider beasts would follow the smell to track and destroy them. What annoyed him now was how to deal with the pile of messy looted materials left by the evil orcs in the camp. He didn't recognize many of them at all, so he could only wave his hand and let the alchemy camel beast transport them all back to the outpost fortress. It would be best to teleport them back to the territory in batches and hand them over to Lord Harvey to identify and deal with them personally. What are these things? Harvey looked at the various messy materials piled up on the teleportation array, which almost occupied 1/3 of the laboratory area, and covered his forehead with a bitter smile. Reiner was very interested in directing the working alchemy beast to sort and organize the spoils of war sent back by Pierce. Look, sir. What kind of weapon is this? He picked up a short axe with a strange shape like a boomerang and handed it to Harvey. Looking at the patterns and shapes carved on the handle, this should be a weapon of the demon clan, a throwing axe used by ordinary soldiers. Harvey's continental history is pretty good, and he can barely identify the source of the items. Send them all to the cast iron workshop to be melted. The metal smelting technology of the demon clan is pretty good. Don't waste these materials. Reiner searched and picked up again, and found an exquisite wooden box with a surface wrapped in animal skin. This box is actually inlaid with gems. Sir, take a look. No mistake, 1 post, 1 content, 1 book, 1 forum, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 forum, 1 look. Harvey was not interested in these ordinary gems without any magic fluctuations. He was more concerned about the deep red liquid neatly stacked in crystal bottles in the box, which contained strong energy fluctuations. This must be an extremely precious spell casting material. I don't know its use yet, so I'll seal it carefully for now. He would wait for the Magic Network Forum Exchange meeting to consult those high-level spellcasters online. The rest of the seized materials were mostly metal weapons or decorations that the evil orcs were interested in. Harvey thought that sending them to the furnace to be refined into metal ingots and then remaking weapons was their best destination. But in addition to the box of unknown liquid spell casting materials, there was another thing that Harvey was very satisfied with, and he could even think that its value far exceeded other spoils of war. That was 4 boxes full of dark golden metal ingots, hundreds of them, which came from the unique metal mineral of the demon clan phantom copper. This ore is only produced in the lava mountains in the demon clan's territory, and it is sparsely distributed and has low production. I don't know how this medium-sized evil orc tribe that fled to Jackdaw Ridge got such precious strategic materials from the demon clan. And it was refined ingots after smelting and purification, the kind that can be used to make weapons directly. Phantom copper is one of the main materials for making elemental magic tools, which can greatly improve the casting stability and magic power amplification effect of magic tools. Because the demon clan strictly controls the circulation of this rare material, in many wizard kingdoms in the southern continent, phantom copper was once priceless and could not be easily purchased with gold pounds alone. These boxes of phantom copper in front of me are probably as much as 200 or 300 kilograms. Harvey thinks that if it is based on the agreed price among spellcasters, it is worth at least 100,000 gold pounds. War plunder is indeed the fastest way to get rich. Chapter 79. Carol Randy, a high elf spellcaster codenamed Heart of the Forest, logged into the Magic Network forum early, waiting for the online auction that would begin in half an hour. 3 days ago, an announcement suddenly appeared on the top of the forum, informing members that today's forum exchange meeting would be an online auction and membership quota bidding. In fact, forum members would occasionally conduct online transactions of some precious spell casting materials or high-level magic tools alone, but this form of transaction is not friendly to new members. The difficulty of obtaining points is relatively high, and most members do not look down on ordinary money as a transaction equivalent, and are more willing to barter for the items they need. Harvey is certainly not happy to see this happen. If everyone holds the points in their hands and does not spend them, it will definitely affect the continued depreciation of the forum's virtual currency. It will definitely seriously affect his behavior of cutting magic leaks from time to time. Therefore, holding some public trading auctions regularly can not only stimulate members to consume their points, but also allow them to benefit from the forum, which is a win-win behavior. Harvey attaches great importance to user stickiness in this regard. Elemental Hand, praised the administrator Mr. Turing. Good evening, everyone. It was the familiar opening greeting from the social expert Mr. Elemental Hand. Harvey couldn't help but smile as he stared at the crystal screen. This seemingly gentle and polite Mr. Elemental Hand, who never breaks his defense, is a powerful elemental mage who has the ability to explore the rifts of different spaces with legendary spellcasters. Magic Shield, good evening, everyone. It seems that all the members participating in the exchange meeting today are here. Everyone should be here for the auction and the bidding quota, right? This newly joined Mr. Magic Shield speaks in the style of an old-school government official. It feels like he should be an official of the Federation or other Wizard Kingdom organizations. But I don't know why he was invited to the forum. Shouldn't he report the situation of the forum to the organization as soon as possible, and then actively carry out various investigations? But Harvey observed his various speeches and information exchanges for a long time and found that he was just constantly seeking some magic knowledge to get promoted. It seems that he is essentially a trader who focuses on his own interests. Harvey likes such forum members. Son of Flame, I wonder if Mr. Turing will personally host the auction today? I can't wait to see what goodies everyone has prepared. In reality, Some spellcasters will privately organize auctions to trade some important items or spellcasting materials, but they are limited to their trusted circle of contacts, and others will never be accepted and integrated. The world of spellcasters is essentially still strictly divided into factions and classes. An auction like today's is completely anonymous online, and the items are immediately sent and received, without worrying about being intercepted and killed in the middle of the way, and all high-level spellcasters participate. Even in the capital of all laws, all AE, it is not easy to have the opportunity to participate. Administrator Turing, today's auction is indeed hosted by me, but it is my body projection that serves you. Everyone was silent for a while, although it was vaguely mentioned in the forum by members with higher reputations such as the Scorching Lord that this mysterious and powerful Mr. Turing used his own projection in the magic network plane to create the magical online organization of the Spellcaster Forum. But hearing the administrator casually say this fact in person still shocked everyone. Legendary spellcasters can indeed form projections of their own magic patterns in the magic network, but I have never heard of any legendary spellcaster's projection that can create a communication space like the Spellcaster Forum that exists entirely in the magic network plane and can interact with reality through alchemical instruments. Administrator Turing, if you have no questions, let's get started. According to the auction rules marked in advance in the forum announcement, members participating in the sale of items must display the items from the last time they joined the forum. Each item is limited to a maximum of 5 bids, which can avoid malicious price increases. If the item is unfortunately unsold, it will be allowed to be traded privately again later. As for the specific value of each item, it is decided by the item holder himself. Whether it is points, universal currency, designated materials, or magic tools, you can participate in the bidding. The first person to bid was a new member of the forum codenamed Rock Titan. Harvey vaguely remembered that he had frequent exchanges with Mr. Frost Giant and should be a member invited by him. Rock Titan, my auction item is a magic gem, Heart of Clark. I won't explain its specific effects in detail. People who understand its value and use will naturally know it. Harvey frowned slightly and thought, why do you have to pretend to be cool when you sell something? Why don't you tell me what this thing is used for? Isn't it better to educate low-level rookies? Fortunately, a forum member with a more unrestrained personality immediately jumped out to make a big comment. Son of Fire, Heart of Clark? Haha. Why don't you just say it's the heart of a petrified banshee? Why are you playing dumb? It's the main material of the magic weapon of an earth-based spellcaster. Who is interested in bidding? Rock Titan, I only accept point bidding, starting at 150 points. Unfortunately, although this kind of magic weapon material is precious, its use is very limited, and it was eventually bought by the earth-loving one at the lowest price. Subsequently, several new members showed their auction items, including powerful mid-level attacking magic tools, rare magic potions, and some relatively rare magic potion materials in the southern continent. Most of them were successfully sold, and only a few items with smaller uses were unfortunately unsold. The only thing Harvey was interested in was a set of alchemical devices taken out by the Mirror Man Arcane Mentor's arm, which provided amplification and stability for the magic power introduction and matrix drawing of the caster during the experimental research. But he had to accept that this alchemical device would be transplanted into his body and infused with magic energy at all times to maintain its activity. Harvey suddenly realized that this was not the castrated version of his soul transfer experiment, which also had active characteristics and needed magic energy to drive it. If it weren't for the fact that the offer of 500 points was too shocking, resulting in no one in the audience, Harvey would have wanted to buy it back for research, but considering that taking out too many points at once would easily arouse the suspicion of other members, he had no choice but to give up. I'll have a chance to communicate with Mr. Mirror Man alone. Harvey shook his head with some regret. The Ghost Captain took out a magic potion formula called Breath of the Naga Siren, which is used to assist water casters in spell matrix analysis and mental recovery. It attracted several forum members to bid, and was finally bought by the new member Magic Shield with the highest price of 220 points. After multiple bids, the atmosphere of the online auction gradually became tense, and the Heart of the Forest immediately showed its own auction item, a natural protective magic weapon, which is characterized by being able to automatically absorb magic network energy and replenish energy for the shield, and its defense and endurance are very excellent. Finally, the new member Shadow Knight, who was suspected to be invited by the Scorching Lord, successfully won the auction with 200 points plus some rare spell materials. No mistakes, 1 post, 1 content, 1 book, 1 forum, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 forum, 1 look. The auction was coming to an end, and it was finally Harvey's turn to display the auction items. Kel'Thuzad, everyone, what you know about me is the Harvest from the Ruins exploration, an unknown liquid spell casting material. If you are interested, I can let you inspect the goods on the spot through the teleportation array under the witness of Mr. Turing, but if you want to participate in the auction, you need to tell me the name and use of the material for free, so this part of knowledge is also one of the purchase value paid to me. As soon as the keyword Ruins Exploration came out, the crystal screen began to refresh the message screen instantly. Most forum members chose to participate in the inspection and accepted the trading rules that required the provision of corresponding material knowledge. Harvey smiled slightly and signaled Reiner, who was standing by, to divide one of the bottles of crimson liquid seized from the evil orcs into 8 evenly using a test tube and immediately send it to the members participating in the bidding. A slight light flashed, and a slender crystal test tube appeared on the magic network teleportation array. Son of Fire Furholden walked up to pick it up, glanced at it casually, and immediately widened his eyes. This, demon blood. When fire elemental casters cast high-level spells, it is a rare casting material that is rarely used. The reason is that this blood material, which is said to be taken from the demons of another space, has the powerful negative effect of burning blood. Burning blood actually refers to a self-destructive fighting method in which the caster overdraws his own mental power through potions to increase the power of the spell. The negative effect is that the mental power will be in a dry and weak state for a long time. Therefore, unless it is a last resort, ordinary combat mages are not very brave to try to use this casting auxiliary material. But Furholden actually knows another rare use of demon blood, which is to combine with other magic materials to transform the blood of ordinary people who have no talent for casting. This method also has obvious disadvantages. The caster who accepts the transformation will be directly stuck in the middle level and can never be promoted, and can only learn the magic of the fire element. Fel couldn't help but think of the unlucky descendants of the family who were close to him but had no talent for spell casting, and decided to find a way to buy this material and make some plans for their future. He hurried back to the magic brain instrument and began to reply to the message of Kel'Thuzad. Son of Flame at Mr. Kel'Thuzad, I don't know how many such materials you have obtained. I am willing to buy them all at a price of 20 points per milliliter, and will attach the material knowledge and basic use explanations. 20 points per milliliter, one bottle can be sold for 200 points, it seems that this thing is very valuable. Harvey thought for a while, and when he was about to express that he didn't need points and wanted to replace them with other equivalent materials, new news was refreshed. Heart of the Forest, I'm sorry, at Mr. Son of Flame, I'm afraid I have to participate in this bidding. I am willing to buy it at a price of 25 points per milliliter, or exchange it for equivalent gold pounds and magic materials. Frost Giant, hehe, then I'll try to participate, 25 points per milliliter, and a list of magic or materials will be included, which Mr. Kel'Thuzad can choose freely. Shit! Why are you bidding against me? The irritable Fel slammed his fist on the table and cursed with gritted teeth. He immediately switched to the forum battle mode, ready to taunt these guys who were bidding against him, but suddenly saw a new message at the bottom of the crystal screen. Feld was stunned for a moment, and fearfully put his hand, which was on the typing keys, back into his robe sleeve. Scorching Overlord, if Mr. Kel'Thuzad can provide more than 100 ml of this material at one time, I am willing to provide a matrix model of a 6-ring improved spell or a high-level defensive magic weapon, and I don't have to compensate me for the difference in price. Chapter 80. The Master of Crimson opened his mouth to participate in the bidding, and the forum was silent. Whether it is the 6-ring improved magic skill or the high-level defensive magic, it cannot be easily exchanged. Moreover, everyone has long acknowledged his identity as a legendary spellcaster, and it is impossible to make a feud with him for a rare magic material. Harvey thought for a moment, feeling that the trading chips proposed by the Scarlet Lord were indeed far more than others, and he cared more about why the other party was willing to pay such a high price to buy this material. Will something that can be easily snatched from the demons by evil orcs really be a rare and precious material? Or does the Master of Burning Heat know the unknown secret purpose of this thing? I don't know if he will be willing to tell me the real purpose of the material after completing the transaction. Kel'Thuzad, I accept the deal proposed by Mr. Cairo and choose the defensive magic weapon. I am sorry to other members here. The members expressed their understanding, and no one complained or dissatisfied. The last 2 members who participated in the auction quickly sent their items and quotations publicly, but the value and rarity of the items seemed average, and they were successfully auctioned after just 1 or 2 bids. The forum quota that Harvey gave high hopes to bid for, but he fell into an extremely fierce bidding stage. After repeated pulls, he was paid 5,000 gold pounds by the French Shield, which was extremely active in the entire auction, in the form of points exchanged for gold pounds. Add 300 ml of liquid mitral to the hammer directly. It seems that although Mr. Fajan mainly aims at his own interests, he still has not forgotten the influence of the Development Federation in the forum. I believe that this high membership fee will not be paid by him alone, but will inevitably be strongly sponsored. Then everyone sent back the inspection materials, and Harvey collected them into a whole enchanted crystal bottle and immediately sent them to the Cairo Lord. Soon after, I received a transaction reply, and the teleportation array buzzed and instantly delivered the trading items dominated by the Scorching Master. A simple silver bracelet, a parchment scroll with a magic seal. This should be the knowledge of defensive magic weapons and magic materials mentioned by Mr. Shock Lord. Instead of paying attention to the silver bracelet first, Harvey directly picked up the magic scroll, gently smashed the stamp seal on it with magic power, and read the content carefully. Devil's blood comes from a demon at the lower level in a different space. It is generally used to assist in flame element casting. It has the characteristics of casting augmentation. It can also adjust bloodline potions to transform ordinary people's bloodlines, making them a fixed level caster. When Harvey saw this, he couldn't help but feel heartbroken. It turned out that this thing was really a rare spell casting material, or was it taken from the blood from the demon in the alien space? Why did it fall into the hands of the evil orcs? The ability to transform bloodlines on ordinary people without spell casting talents is probably enough to make it worthless in the human kingdom. Unfortunately, Mr. Cairo will not give him this recipe in vain. In addition, demon blood has another relatively secret purpose, which is to have the characteristics of flesh and blood reshaping, but also requires corresponding refining formulas, and it is just the largest amount of rare materials. As far as I know, I also need the blood of the dragon, the spirit of the ghost of the underworld, etc. Reshaping flesh and blood? Harvey couldn't help but immediately remembered the life-making experiment that the man in the mirror at the Alchemy Secret Association has been committed to studying. However, the two obviously have different goals. The main research direction of life refining is to focus on the soul and weaken the carrier, while the reshaping of flesh and blood obviously focuses on the carrier. It seems that whether it is a traditional spellcaster or a high-level alchemist, although it has not been stated on the surface, the direction of the experiment in private is still consistently concerned about how to improve the level of life. Harvey was also attracted to research in this area. Anyway, a box of 12 bottles of demon blood was sold, and there was enough amount to support him in conducting various experiments. When you have the chance, you will find a way to obtain some experimental records and corresponding data from the Burning Master and the man in the mirror to confirm it. Harvey put down the magic scroll and took the simple-shaped silver bracelet. The description of the use of this bracelet called Silver Moon Guardian is very simple: automatic inspiration and malicious perception. When the wearer is in a state of magic, the bracelet will automatically activate the defense shield when it senses maliciousness within a range of 100 meters. The bracelet has an absolute defense at one time for elements and arcane magic below the 5th ring, and the magic rules of the 5th ring and above can weaken the defense 3 times, and there will be no side effects during wearing. The wearer does not need to actively inject magic energy into the bracelet. On a full moon night, it can also absorb the pure magic energy in the magic net to recharge itself. Harvey was very satisfied with this defensive magic weapon, and immediately happily put it on his left wrist and covered it with a hanging mage robe. Then he picked up the scroll sent by the Master of the Burning and returned to his desk, and began to record the subsequent research direction of the demon blood in detail on the experimental log and some of his own thoughts. It is known that the demon blood is one of the important materials for the flesh and blood reshaping experiment, so it must naturally possess the characteristics of life refining. If combined with the experiment of soul transfer, can it solve the problem that I have been bothering in my previous experiments? Research problems that cannot be broken down into soul fragments alone, but can only be transferred as a whole. A perfect poem, a post, a content, a 6-9 book, a forum, and a look. As early as when he was transferring the soul of Asterin, he began to think about this epic experimental problem. Why would the soul that originally belonged to the caster make the other party lose his talent for casting spells after being transferred to the alchemical prosthesis? It is obvious that the alchemical prosthesis can store and release the same magical energy as the caster. The only difference is that the alchemical life cannot perceive the magic net and can only draw energy from the energy gathering array or the charging magic stone. Harvey actually always knew that Asterin was in great pain because he could no longer cast spells. If there was a way to solve the problem that the alchemical life could not become a spellcaster, he would not be as depressed as he is now. After reading the knowledge fragments provided by the Burning Overlord, Harvey had a vague guess. The key to whether or not to cast spells may not be whether one can store magic energy, but whether the caster can mobilize mental power, deeply connect with the magic patterns in the magic net, and use mental power to guide the magic energy for transformation. This means that as long as the alchemical life is given a perfect spiritual carrier, the problem of casting magic can be perfectly solved. Harvey remembered that the alchemical prosthesis that was customized for Reiner from the Mirror Man 3 months ago should arrive in a few days. Unlike Stalin's auxiliary prosthesis, it was specially customized for Reiner. Harvey named it Research Prosthesis. When the time comes, use the upgraded prosthesis to conduct this experiment. Chapter 81. As the evil orcs evacuated from the valley area stopped trying to counterattack the outpost fortress for a long time. The war situation instantly eased, and Pierce also began to train reserve troops directly in the valley outpost area according to Harvey's previous rotation garrison training plan. Occasionally, there will be some tentative small-scale battles with the evil orc sentinels, which can be regarded as daily practical exercises for soldiers. Asterin returned to the territory successfully and began to cooperate with Harvey in related affairs of the magical military factory, freeing Reiner and devote himself to the territory's grain production and infrastructure work. The northern border has officially entered the hot summer season. A batch of crops planted in early spring have just been harvested. The poultry and livestock raised have also entered the stage of breeding and laying eggs in the warm weather. The entire territory is showing a prosperous scene. In just half a year, Harvey's territory's population has surged to nearly 8,000 people. Most of the leaders received a job that could support themselves and their families, thanks to Harvey's vast and never-reclaimed territory and extremely abundant materials. The farms on the foot of the mountain alone accommodate more than 2,500 civilians who are good at farming and breeding. Cast iron workshops, cement workshops, food processing plants and other industries also provide about 1,000 jobs, but the technical threshold is slightly higher and simple training is required starting from the apprentice. Not long ago, a new iron ore-rich mining area was explored in the mountains southwest of the farm. Harvey immediately ordered a full set of mining equipment from the Longxi Chamber of Commerce and equipped with a working alchemy beast suitable for mineral mining. More than 500 new jobs have been provided. In addition, due to the surge in the population of the territory, Harvey also set up a special municipal management department of the territory, promoting the first batch of refugees he received when he first arrived here to grassroots managers, while providing them with primary education and learning. While developing municipal management of the territory, Harvey expects to form a mature municipal management department in the later stage, which can provide the territory with about 200 educated municipal grassroots officials positions, which can basically meet daily territorial management work. But even if we include the newly recruited 500 reserve soldiers, the entire territory currently has official jobs and income, and there are only about 5,000 people. This means that there are about 3,000 entourage residents who will be unemployed after completing this batch of house construction projects in the territory. If food and residents are not distributed for free, there will be some chaos, influencing the stability of the territory. Among these 3,000 civilians involved in the construction of the project, we can recruit about 500 reserve soldiers, and we can't have more. At present, our arsenal can only afford an army of 1,500 people. Reiner flipped through his workbook and analyzed to Harvey with a whisper. Harvey scratched his head in an annoyed manner. Then there will be 2,500 people who are unemployed on the spot. It is not that they can't afford to support them in a short period of time, but this will inevitably cause dissatisfaction among other leaders who rely on their work to support themselves. Not worrying about lack of worries but unevenness is a common mentality that will exist in any era. After the territory's mining area has stable iron ore production, I want to build an iron plant that can accommodate 1,000 jobs. Harvey spread out the simple territory planning map hand-painted by Reiner, and his fingers are in the mining area. There were points on the wide open land along the river between the farm. For a long time, when the cast iron workshops in the territory made tools and weapons, they used Harvey's own pocket to buy finished iron ingots from outside chambers of commerce, and the transportation and smelting costs were very high. Moreover, with the mass production of alchemy beasts, the use of metal parts and cast iron materials has increased. It is no longer realistic to rely solely on imported finished iron ingots to meet the needs of the military production industry. Reiner rigorously recorded Harvey's ideas. The remaining part of the people who do not have jobs to provide, I also have a job placement plan. Harvey took a thick charcoal pen and gently drew a huge ellipse around the territory planning map. This circle is centered on the Lord's Castle, covering the mining area, iron smelting plant, cast iron workshop, and cement workshop along the river on the east side, to the residential area, market area, municipal management center, and territory medical hospital on the southeast side, and then go to the farm, pastoral area, food processing plant, storage area on the south side, the magic military factory and alchemy workshop on the west side, and until the military camp area on the north side. Reiner leaned over and stared at the circle Harvey drew casually, and asked in confusion, "Sir, what does this mean?" Harvey smiled slightly and explained with a firm heart, "City wall, this is the city wall of the territory." Reina exclaimed, "Build such a long city wall? Accept the entire territory." He carefully took out a slender metal ruler from the familiar small leather bag on his waist, and measured the distance marked by Harvey, and then stopped saying, "Sir, this circle of city walls is it must be nearly 20 miles long." Harvey smiled and asked, "Then do you think it would take if 1,500 leaders of the alchemy beasts cooperated with the work to complete this grand construction work?" The inscriptions on Reiner's head suddenly lit up, and it was obvious that high-speed computing activities were being carried out. "Well, if the materials from the cement workshop and quarry can be supplied, I expect it will take at least 4 to 5 months to complete. During this period, I will not encounter unexpected situations such as evil orc attacks." He paused and added, "And once winter comes, construction will be impossible. You also know how terrible the winter temperature in the northern wilderness is. No mistake, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar." Harvey laughed, pulled Reiner to the desk, and handed him a thin stack of hand-drawn drawings. "In addition to the territory wall, I also have a winter municipal construction plan. You can put it behind the wall project." Reiner nodded hesitantly and took the drawings and looked through them carefully. "Sir, what is the City 3 Connections, 2 Openings project?" As the name suggests, water connection, lighting, heating, 2 openings means opening river transportation and ground roads. Reiner's eyes lit up, and he looked at Harvey expectantly and said, "Water connection means digging wells, right? Lighting doesn't mean letting civilians light candles at home? What is heating?" Harvey smiled helplessly and briefly explained his construction plan for the City 3 Connections project to Reiner one by one. "What? You mean to install lighting magic stones in every household, and use energy pipelines to connect them all for energy supply? The energy array will explode directly, right? Don't worry, have you forgotten the planetary energy array built in the military factory?" Harvey circled a small circle on the territory planning map again, tapping the charcoal pencil. "I will also build a special energy power plant next to the military factory." Chapter 82. Various prosthetic parts kept flashing on the magic network teleportation array in the laboratory, and were moved and assembled in an orderly manner by the working alchemy beasts. "Reiner, this is your new prosthesis." Harvey patted Reiner on the shoulder and pointed to the brand new silver-white alchemical prosthesis on the suspension bracket. Reiner excitedly moved closer to observe. "It's really beautiful. This outer armor, this alloy skeleton, and there are also dual energy slots. This is a custom alchemical prosthesis that Harvey gave to the Mirror Man of the Alchemical Exploration Society 3 months ago. It is a special model that he designed by himself and then the other party perfected the details. There is actually a reason why Harvey named it a research-type prosthesis. The main way to use the alchemical prosthesis made by the Exploration Society in the spell-casting world is to activate it with special spells and act through commands. But because the prosthesis itself is a lifeless metal creation, it is as rigid as the zombie of the Necromancer and can only complete some simple attack and defense actions. Most spellcasters use alchemical prostheses mainly to replace knight squires for close protection of mages. After all, it only takes materials, money, and a few weeks to make an alchemical prosthesis, but it takes more than 10 years to train a knight with bloodline power. The energy supply of auxiliary prostheses is relatively extensive, and most of them are used in magic laboratories to assist research casters in various research experiments with a certain degree of risk. This research prosthesis is to abandon the redundant structure of the combat prosthesis, enhance some functions of the auxiliary prosthesis, and set up many upgradable spare parts slots. Reiner, who has experienced a soul transfer experiment, lay on the experimental table with ease, and cooperated with Harvey to quickly complete the soul transfer of the new prosthesis. After only a dozen seconds, the blue soul flame was rekindled in the eye sockets of the metal head of the new prosthesis. Well, sir, I seem to be light. Reiner propped himself up and tentatively touched the ground with his feet. Harvey quickly reminded, be careful, your current body is made of secret alloy. Although it is light, it is extremely hard. You need to control your strength. Reiner nodded while supporting the experimental table. Inadvertently, his metal palm pressed 2 deep palm prints on the hard table. I'm afraid it will take several days to adapt. Reiner was a little at a loss. It doesn't matter, let's try the charging power of the energy gathering array first. Harvey took the experimental record manual and rigorously asked Reiner to complete a series of inspections of the new prosthesis. The magic energy capacity is 5 times the original. Now even if Reiner does not carry a spare magic stone, he can guarantee at least 3 days of daily activities after completing the charging. Harvey also simplified the complicated energy-driven inscriptions in the past and hid them all in the outer armor, making the overall prosthesis look much more beautiful. The main energy supply inscription array is drawn on the alloy skeleton and the energy core on the chest, so that as long as Reiner's 2 soul cores in the chest and head are not destroyed at the same time, even if it is blown into 8 pieces, it can be reassembled. Reiner stood in front of the semi-reflective glass wall, curiously reaching out to touch the several connection slots on his spine. Sir, what are these slots used for? He seemed to have a sudden burst of inspiration, and asked with a smile, are you going to install a pair of wings for me? Theoretically, it is not completely impossible, but according to the power of energy output, you are likely to explode into a ball of fireworks just after flying in the air due to overload. Harvey did not discuss this idea with Reiner too much. After all, he had seriously considered the feasibility of the magic helicopter when he was in the Academy of the Dead. Of course, the result is that the frequency and power consumption of energy output are not enough to support this kind of invention without nutrition. Isn't it good for various flying spells of high-level spellcasters? Harvey asked the working alchemy beast to bring a long metal box and put it steadily on the experimental table. The slots on your back are used to equip this set of prosthetic accessories. Harvey opened the box, revealing 4 neatly stacked brass-colored metal mechanical tentacles. The tip of each mechanical tentacle is equipped with the same 3-toed claw hook as the medical alchemist, which adds a sense of weirdness and disharmony to these metal tentacles that look like octopus tentacles. This thing looks like Mr. Egno's magic vine. Reiner murmured. Harvey thought, this is Dr. Octopus's trump card. Try to assemble it first, I'll be responsible for debugging it for you. Harvey commanded the alchemist to assist Reiner and completed the assembly of the 6 mechanical tentacles. The tentacles made of special enchanted metal are obviously not light. After all of them are installed on both sides of Reiner's spine, Reiner suddenly has some difficulty maintaining his body balance and can only hold the hoisting bracket tightly, which looks very funny. My lord, I can't drive it at all. I can't sense the energy pipelines in its internal structure. Harvey suppressed his laughter and quickly took out another long metal can from the metal box. After unscrewing it, there was a cold air coming out of it, which was obviously the effect of the frozen magic stone embedded inside. He manipulated the magician's hand and took out a strange bone with pure white color but a faint flash of inscriptions on the surface. It turned out to be a whole human spine. Then he completely embedded it into the spinal slot reserved behind Reiner, and then closed the exoskeleton deck. Reiner was very relieved that Harvey was conducting all kinds of strange experiments and transformations on him that he did not understand, but curiosity still made him keep asking questions. No mistakes, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar. My lord, what is this thing? Why does it look like the spine of a living person? Harvey could only comfort him that it was definitely not a disgusting thing taken from a living person or a dead body, and in fact it was not. This was an independent neural spine system with its own activity, which he made with the blood of demons and other rare materials and reshaped with flesh and blood. This was the key to allowing Reiner to control the 6 mechanical tentacles behind him. Okay, try to drive them again. Reiner did not dare to let go easily, for fear that he would fall backwards on the spot if he let go. Harvey keenly observed that the energy inscriptions on his prosthesis showed a faint light through the gaps in the outer armor, extending all the way to his back. A limp mechanical tentacle suddenly trembled as if it had received an electric shock, and then the 3-toed claw hook at the end of the tentacle also gently opened and closed several times. Hey? I seem to feel something. They seem to have grown on me and become a part of me. Reiner tried his best to control the power of energy transmission. The 6 mechanical tentacles that were originally drooping like dead objects all trembled and became more and more flexible, twisting and dancing like a poisonous snake lured by a recorder. Harvey laughed and couldn't help clapping. Now I should call you, Dr. Reiner. Ha ha ha. Surprised and happy, Reiner didn't care to respond to Harvey's nonsense ridicule. He let go of his hand and walked steadily on the ground, with 6 long mechanical tentacles waving flexibly on his back. With a slight thought, one of the tentacles immediately swooped in front of Harvey, opened and closed the grappling hook, and carefully straightened the crooked collar of the wizard's robe for him. Reiner turned his head to look at the metal lab table, and 2 tentacles immediately rushed to the front of the table. One of them flexibly picked up Harvey's feather pen, and the other took out a piece of white paper from the lab table and began to write his name. Reiner's tone was filled with uncontrollable excitement. Sir, I can complete the experiment while recording the experimental data, and assemble the parts at the same time. No. Not only that. I think I can do 4 jobs at the same time. Chapter 83. After the online auction of the Magic Network forum ended, probably because most of the members who participated in the auction had used up their points, the forum suddenly became more active than before. Harvey could see many posts about knowledge payment and material trading in the information exchange section of the forum every day. This made him more convinced that controlling the number of points in the hands of forum members would help improve user stickiness and forum activity. Even Mr. Burning Lord, who currently has the highest reputation in the forum, has seen his points rapidly shrink to less than 200 after several rounds of online transactions and the consumption of new member invitations. Not to mention those new members and old members who lost a lot of money at the auction, many of them have their points directly reduced to pitiful single digits. Chat more and communicate more, so that I can collect more useful knowledge and information. Harvey sat in front of the magic brain instrument, flipping through the contents stored in it, and couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth. The battle in the Evil Moon Mountains suddenly gained a one-sided advantage because of the withdrawal of the main force of the demons. The Federation and the Wizard Kingdom coalition successfully pushed the front line to the north side of the God Ridge Mountains and completely occupied the natural mining areas rich in high-level magic stones. Harvey naturally knew the general reason for the withdrawal of the demons. It should be that they suddenly turned their main attack direction to the east and began to erode the evil orc territory in the northern ice field with all their strength, but Harvey didn't quite understand why they did so. After simply scanning the content of today's exchanges on the forum, Harvey decided to enter the magic network plane and study his mutated positioning magic pattern carefully. Harvey has always been a thorn in his throat about the magic pattern that suddenly changed from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional. Fortunately, there were no accidents when analyzing the spells or promoting the rank. But Harvey always felt that the mutation of the magic pattern was probably related to the spiritual anchor that appeared out of thin air, and it was even more closely related to his identity as a time traveler. But whether in the Undead Academy in the past or in the current Magic Network forum, he could not find any knowledge content related to the spiritual anchor. After all, hiding the location of one's own magic pattern and the anchor point of the spiritual anchor is a self-protection measure that all spellcasters will take. Is it the uniqueness of the identity of a traverser, or is it the plain change caused by my creation of the Magic Network forum? Harvey repeatedly explored the interior of the magic pattern with his mental power and found that except for the changes in its external form, there were not many strange things in its internal structure. The 2 spells that have completed the analysis and construction in the magic pattern, the 3-ring spell Mirror Curse and the 5-ring spell Carol's Corrosion Field, have been filled into the spell ring position, turning into 2 solid microcrystal spheres that slowly flow inside the magic pattern. The remaining 4 hollow balls mean that he can complete the engraving of 4 more intermediate spells, which is also the total number of instant spells that intermediate spellcasters can construct in the magic pattern. And the general spells do not need to occupy the spell ring position inside the magic pattern. When Harvey was still a magic apprentice at the Academy of the Dead, he had already been basically disenchanted by the magical professional identity of a magician. The spellcasters in this world were completely different from the powerful magicians he had imagined before he crossed over. There was no dazzling and powerful magic, let alone endless strange spells. The total number of spells that an orthodox spellcaster could learn and master in his lifetime was absolutely limited. Even a legendary spellcaster would not dare to claim that he could be inclusive and omnipotent. The Necromancer would never rub a big fireball out of thin air, and the arcane wizard could not shake the zombie army. The battles between spellcasters were not all kinds of flying and hiding. The moment when the spell was completed first and the attack spell was cast first, the victory or defeat was instantly determined. Of course, the formation of a combat wizard cluster like the Federation and the use of offensive spells to directly cover and wash the ground were not included. Harvey observed the magic ring for a while, and decided to use his mental power to enter the mental anchor and explore the hometown anchor point that made him feel familiar and warm. Suddenly he felt a strange energy flow fluctuation in the magic network space, and this fluctuation seemed to surge towards the location of his magic pattern like a wave at an indescribable frequency. The next second Harvey felt as if his heart was squeezed, beating heavily and struggling for a few times. He heard a strange voice in this surging wave. "Hello, strange locator in the magic network." The voice was very hoarse and low, as if many people were speaking at the same time, layered together, and it was difficult to distinguish their gender and age. Harvey forced himself to calm down, and used a trace of mental power to quickly connect with the mental anchor in the magic pattern, so that he could use mental power to defend or counterattack at any time. "Who are you? How did you locate me?" Harvey responded cautiously. "Hehe, why do you think I can locate you? I'm just wandering around the plane casually." The owner of this voice seemed to be in a good mood. Although there was no emotional fluctuation in the tone, there was no obvious hostility in the content. "Are you a high-level spellcaster wandering in the magic network?" "Spellcaster? No, I exist in the magic network myself. I have seen countless spellcasters you mentioned." The other party paused, and then continued lightly, "Can I ask you not to try to use your spiritual anchor to attack me? Hehe, with the stability of your anchor point, it may cause me relatively large damage, but I have no ill intentions." Of course, Harvey would not trust the other party easily. "As long as you don't take the initiative to attack, I will not fight back against you, and I have no malice. There is no mistake. 1619, 1 book, a book. I just want to communicate with others. This place is too empty and vast, which really makes me feel lonely." The mysterious man sighed in a low voice. Harvey thought for a few seconds and asked, "So, are you who originally lived in the magic web plane, race?" He first ruled out the other party's human identity and began to think about what ancient powerful races can survive for a long time in the magic net space besides the legendary spiritual dragon. "Race? Well, let me think about it. Human spellcasters prefer to call me the devil of the mind." "Inner demon?" Harvey was stunned in surprise. "Isn't this the legendary name of a superior demon? It turns out that inner demons live in the magic net space. So do they still have physical bodies in the real world? We only have a projection in the real world, and there is no entity." The other party seemed to immediately sense his thinking and answered quietly. "So the racial talent of the inner demon is thinking perception." Harvey forced himself to gather his chaotic thoughts, so that his mental power can be condensed, and avoid being easily perceived by all his thoughts. The other party responded with an apology in his tone for the first time. "I'm sorry, I'm not taking the initiative to perceive your thinking, but as long as there are people around us, we will be unconsciously forced to hear their strongest voices. Alas, this is both a talent and a curse. It turns out that the full automatic telepathy ability is still a halo-covered passive skill, which is indeed quite miserable." Harvey couldn't help but think that if the other party lives in a giant city like Ale, he might be irritated and mentally collapsed. "Var. Ha ha ha. Although I don't know where Ale is, I think I'm afraid it will indeed collapse after you describe it. This is also the main reason why we choose to live in the magic net." After sensing Harvey's inner complaints, the other party seemed to agree with Harvey's empathy and added a little kindness to his tone. Chapter 84. Although the inner demon who wandered around the demon net did not show his malice, Harvey still would not choose to trust the other party completely. Since it clearly expressed its fear of its own mental attack, Harvey decided to test the other party's intentions based on communication. "So, how should I call you?" "The inner demon, sir." The other party seemed to be in a state of communicating with others, and his tone gradually became agile. "Haha, we don't care much about the specific names of other races, but the real name of the demon cannot be known by others, it will put us in danger." "Mr. Demon, very good. The point that the inner demon mentioned is about the real name of the demon." Harvey actually learned about it by chance during the communication between members of the Magic Network forum. He deliberately said it in front of the inner demon. In fact, he wanted to test the other party's sincerity in communication. "Mr. Inner Demon, since we choose to communicate with each other, it is a fair choice to ask questions and then answer them." Harvey continued to test, wanting to see what questions this inner demon would ask him and judge the other party's true intentions based on this. The inner demon was silent for a moment. Well, I was attracted by your powerful mental fluctuations when I was wandering around. Curiosity will always bring certain dangers, and of course it will also bring many benefits. He chuckled and continued, so I'm curious, why, as a human spellcaster, you have such a powerful mental fluctuation, your spiritual anchor is so stable that I can hardly reach. So that's it. Harvey tried to restrain his mind and avoid the other party's passive exploration. In fact, it's not that I am strong in my own mental power, well. I accidentally joined a mysterious exchange meeting that exists in the magic net space. The perceived fluctuations actually come from this exchange meeting. Harvey briefly described the situation of the mysterious exchange meeting born in the magic network space, explaining to him the cause and general status of the exchange meeting in the tone of the member code named Kelthugid. Really? There is such an interesting and mysterious communication organization? It's incredible. The inner demon couldn't help but sigh. The talent and creativity of human spellcasters is indeed amazing. You are always walking at the forefront of the magic path. Harvey understood the hint of yearning in his words, and his heart moved, and asked tentatively, "Are you interested in this communication?" "Of course, I don't know how long I have been wandering in the magic net before I will meet humans who are as willing to communicate with me as you. Most of them either attack without mercy or escape in horror." It changed its tone and asked with a slight sarcasm, "You seem to be very interested in me, do you want to invite me to join this exchange meeting?" It still keenly sensed some of the thoughts. Harvey coughed awkwardly, "I can't deny that it's true, but I have to pay a high price to invite new members to join, so I'm still struggling to think about it." Suddenly, both of them fell into silence. "In the past, I was summoned to the real world by human spellcasters in the form of sacrifices, and most of them were eager for the gift of strength or wealth." The inner demon couldn't help but speak out. "But I guess neither of these two things will impress you." "No. These two things are exactly my lifelong pursuit." Harvey tried his best to endure the strong desire to complain in his heart, pretending to be careless and said lightly, "That's true." He really wanted to pull this demon from a different space into his online chat group. The main reason was that the other party had lived in the magic network space for a long time, and he must be extremely familiar with this plane and knew the various existences in the plane. A kind of secret and knowledge. However, if you are willing to give some secret knowledge of magic net space in exchange, I will try my best to recommend you to the founders of the exchange meeting. The inner demon thought for a moment, and Harvey felt the energy fluctuations in front of him suddenly solidify, and an illusory twisted crimson figure suddenly appeared in front of him. Secret knowledge? Haha, do you want the rift coordinates of the different space, the remains projection of the spellcaster or ancient creatures, or the trace clue of the demon spirit? Harvey keenly grasped the last thing it mentioned. Demon? You mean, the race that lives in the magic net like you? I've never heard of it. The distorted figure suddenly cracked a gap similar to an eyeball on his head, and he blinked at Harvey in a thrilling and funny way. This is one of the valuable answers, right? I'll reply to you when you invite me to the exchange meeting. He is worthy of being a devil, and is very good at grasping and playing with human curiosity and desire for knowledge. Harvey couldn't help but complain secretly, and it was immediately perceived by the other party. The terrifying one eye immediately bent downwards, presenting a grievance and sad expression. "No problem, I promise you." Harvey immediately changed the topic and used his mental power to draw out the information transmission matrix of the demon brain and gently pushed it to the inner demon. "But you must abide by the rules of the exchange meeting and choose a code name that belongs to you alone. In the first week of joining, you can only listen and not speak." The inner demon raised his hand and touched it, instantly absorbing the matrix image condensed by Harvey into his body. "Thank you very much for your kindness. You are the first human spellcaster I have met who has no malice or disgust towards the demon clan. In your clan, you should also be considered an alien, right?" It blinked his one-eyed eyes in a humorous way. "Then, the first meeting ends here, we are communicating and meeting." The twisted phantom flashed twice, and disappeared in front of Harvey instantly with the strange energy fluctuation. "There is no mistake. 1 one book, 1 a book." Harvey breathed a sigh of relief, immediately cut off the connection of his mental power and returned to the real world. He quickly came to the magic brain instrument, logged into the Magic Network forum with the administrator code, and pulled the code list of forum members. Sure enough, in the last line, I saw a Mercury name that just lit up Soul Hunter. The superior demon is different from ordinary low-level demons. There is even a gap in the life level between the two. Asterin explained slowly to Harvey. Ancient wizards have studied a lot of creatures like demons, especially those in the arcane summoning system, but most of them sign summon contracts with low and inferior demons. They rely solely on the contract to drive those creatures without wisdom and only bloodthirsty killing instincts. Serve yourself. Havoc said, is there no example of signing a contract with the superior demon? Asterin chuckled and said quietly, I heard it occasionally, but it's basically negative cases. I warn the world not to easily fall into the temptation and lies of the devil. So, the demon is called an evil existence that is naturally hostile to humans. Harvey was confused and could not understand why the inner demon he encountered could communicate and talk calmly with him, but he did not give up at all. Give any bargaining chips to tempt yourself. Not all. Asterin thought for a while. I saw what he saw and heard when traveling through hell in a travelogue of an ancient legendary wizard. In the demon clan, there is an alien with the characteristics of an observer. They will not have specific hostility towards any intelligent creature. They are more focused on observation and communication, and contact each other. Some demons will even disguise themselves as others. Race, integrate into the other group and live for hundreds of years. What is that intention? Harvey asked. Asterin shook his head slowly, saying that he was not clear at all, and could only guess, maybe, observing and integrating this behavior itself is their way to gain power and knowledge. Chapter 85. The leader of the farm mill team, Maisu, has been busy these days. He almost goes out in the morning mist every day and returns home in the afterglow of the sunset. A month ago, the melon, burned by the high temperature of the mill alchemy beast, was forced to take a forced leave arrangement and stayed at home with a basic salary to recuperate. The wheat ears carefully removed several thin light green leaves from the severely scalded face and chest skin of the melon, revealing the newly grown pink and healthy skin inside. I've recovered almost. The magic leaf dressing made by Lord Egno has a magical recovery effect on external trauma. After Wagwa was saved by Egno on the spot, Maisui thought he would be a disfigured bachelor in the rest of his life. Unexpectedly, after a few days, Lord Egno came to his door in person and gave him a strange thing. Let him apply fresh leaves on the affected area where the scald of the melon. But there is a special requirement: after applying the leaves, the melon must bask in the sun for a full 6 hours every day, otherwise the recovery effect will be greatly reduced. The farm management officials could only arrange for Wagwa to take a leave because it was an accidental work injury, so the territory's chief executive Reiner waved his pen and generously approved a note for a basic salary leave, which moved Wagwa and wheat ears. It took a while. I don't know if I can still catch up with the harvest season. It should be in these 2 days, right? Wagwa endured the itch in the affected area and muttered in a low voice, I heard that the farm in the harvest season is busy and overtime work. There is also an extra overtime salary to get. Maisu sneered, there are 3 days left in the medicine application cycle that Lord Egno asked for. You should stay at home with peace of mind. Get a less overtime salary, and you won't lose a piece of meat. He knew that Wagwa had been saving money, and had received 3 months' salary, and shared a 2-bedroom house with him. He only bought some cheap bread and wheat cakes in the convenience market as staple food every day, and even a piece of bacon I can't bear to pay for it and try it. The salary paid for farm work is not low in the entire territory. The basic salary of 80 yuan per month and additional overtime subsidies are rarely less than 100 yuan. Maisui heard someone in private that ordinary soldiers of the Lord's private army only had a monthly salary of 120 yuan, which was only the advantage of keeping food and accommodation compared to them. A full 2 pounds of barley bread can be bought with $1. 2 pounds of bread a day is enough for a manual laborer to eat very much. The price of smoked pork leg meat is 2 yuan per pound, and ordinary poultry and aquatic products such as chicken, duck, geese, and fish is also very affordable, and it is not a luxury to consume once a week. As long as the most expensive luxury processed foods such as gold-fried pork chops, honey-cured venison, frozen wine, smoked lamb, etc. are not consumed every day, most people can live a very comfortable life if they only need to spend half of their salary every month. I always rent a house and I feel uneasy. Said Wagwayan, I still want to get married, and I always have to. I have to save some of my own permanent property. Renting a 2-story cottage built by the Lord for civilians only requires a low rent ranging from 10 to 30 yuan. The smallest two-bedroom building like Maisui and Wagwa live in is the lowest rent. Files. The latest announcement posted by the municipal department a few days ago is that if you join the territory for more than 6 months, you can choose to buy a house with your own ownership. Most people's desire for houses and farmland is very common in this era. After all, only those with constant property will have perseverance. Especially the wasteland refugees like Gwa and wheat ears who have been displaced in the past and have lived a life hanged on the line, they regard the 4 words living and working in peace even more than the sky. However, Maisui does not have as urgent property purchase demand as Wagwa for the time being. He is also a lucky person who climbed out of the dead of refugees. He has not enjoyed a few days in a good life, so he doesn't want to treat the salary he gets every month without any misconduct. Your own belly. If you go to night school to learn how much money you have to save to afford a house? Do you think you are a civilian family with 4 or 5 people working? Maisui was so angry that he complained about Wagwa's whimsicality. He took out the paper and charcoal pens distributed free of charge by the school at night from the chest of drawers at the dining table, and the writers and drawings taught Wagwa arithmetic lessons. Even if you save a month, you can save up to 80 yuan. The houses listed in the announcement are the cheapest 2-story 2-bedroom apartments we live in now, and those with a slightly worse location will have to be at least 2,400 yuan. Starting from sale means you have to save up nearly 3 years of money. Although Wagwa couldn't make up her mind, she still didn't doubt his elementary math level. She immediately turned red and could not speak any refutation. After recuperating for a few more days, the Wagwa finally returned to the farm and started working again just before the harvest season. Dozens of large working alchemy beasts lingered in the golden wheat fields, waving the long metal arms made of 2 giant sickles to harvest the heavy wheat ears, and then swallowing them all into their stomachs. The 3 of them were in a group of farm workers followed steadily behind the alchemy beast's butt, and methodically filled the large, plump wheat grains spewed out from the alchemy beast's butt in a linen pocket. 7 or 8 mills were driven by the alchemy beasts, and then they removed the wheat grains from the shell and crushed them into the grain warehouse one after another. Reiner stood by the ridge holding a work manual, explaining the next stage of farming plan to Harvey in detail. The barley harvested in spring and summer is enough to reserve food for the territory for the winter. The improved wheat to be sown next is expected to have a higher yield. After all, it was a wheat variety that had been enchanted and improved for several rounds by Egno, a natural spell caster. Reiner set aside a separate experimental field for trial planting. Not only did it grow well, it was also quite cold resistant and drought resistant. Harvey nodded, looking at the busy scene of the people in the field, and smiled with satisfaction. What is the response to the house purchase notice posted by the municipal government a few days ago? Reiner put away the farm work records, skillfully took out a notebook from his bag, and reported seriously. No mistakes in 1 song, 1 post, 1 content, 1 book, 1 forum, 1 6, 1 9. There are a total of 483 people who have come to ask about buying a house. They are all families with more than 6 people, and they have an urgent need to improve their living environment. But this group of people accounts for less than 1/10 of the total population of the territory. My lord, I think most people can't afford to buy a house in a short time. Harvey nodded in approval. Indeed, the house price I offer is not cheap compared to their salary. Only those people with a large family population and family members who have fixed jobs are eligible to save enough money to buy a house in a short time. It is actually unrealistic to rely on this group of people to realize the economic benefit cycle in the territory. After all, the vast majority of civilians in the territory are originally lonely bachelors or small families of 2 or 3 people. Even the highest income technical workers and soldiers cannot afford to buy a house with just half a year's income. I didn't plan to let them spend 2 or 3 years saving enough money to buy a house. Harvey looked at Reiner's puzzled expression and explained patiently, the information about the house sale was only published to boost the confidence and morale of the civilians in the territory and give them hope for a better future. Next, I will ask the municipal government to issue a detailed house purchase announcement, which is the real reason to attract them to spend their salary and savings. All the citizens in the territory with a work contract can pay only 30% of the house purchase down payment to buy the house they like. The remaining 70% of the house price will be automatically deducted from the salary in monthly installments, without charging any interest until it is fully repaid. And all the rent paid by the citizens for renting the house in the early stage will be returned to the citizens who bought the house as part of their down payment for the house. Harvey looked at Reiner with a smile. This is called the Loan Installment Purchase Policy. Chapter 86. After the northern wasteland entered autumn, the temperature difference between day and night became larger, and the weather became colder day by day. Harvey, who originally needed to meditate late at night, spent the whole morning in the warm bedroom on the third floor of the castle and reluctant to get up. Although he has not yet obtained the identity of a noble lord on the surface, as the only ruling class in the pioneering territory, he has the right to snore his hands and sleep in. Especially when the hot water heating system that was first installed in the castle was activated, it further encouraged Harvey to feel bad when he didn't want to leave the bedroom and study. By the time he finally came to noon, Reiner had returned to the castle for the third time to urge him to report on his work. The batch of thick cotton cloth that was ordered in advance from the Longxi Chamber of Commerce has already made 500 sets of standard military uniforms at the garment factory and sent it to the River Valley Outpost this morning. The River Valley Outpost has now firmly taken root at the forefront of the territory's resistance to evil orcs. Harvey divided the total number of 1,000 territorial soldiers into 3 batches and rotated to garrison on a monthly basis, which not only ensures the morale of the team but also helps in actual combat training. He leisurely twisted up a piece of soft white bread, carefully applied it evenly with the wild berry jam, a specialty of the territory, and then stuffed it into his mouth with great satisfaction. Well, not only should we consider their winter heating, but also pay attention to the logistics of food. You should communicate with Pierce frequently. Last time Pierce mentioned that most of the soldiers suffer from night blindness. Harvey pointed at the heart-filled table with a knife. We should pay attention to the food logistics of the soldiers, and provide them with more animal offal, fruits, fish, and newly planted carrots and other vegetables. Deliver it in time after harvest. Reiner nodded as if he understood and honestly recorded Harvey's request. The project progress of the territory wall is very fast, and the construction of the northern section of about 6 kilometers has been basically completed. Reiner closed the booklet, but he was a little reluctant to speak. Do you want to say that because of such a huge project in the new city wall, the fiscal expenditure of the territory has exceeded the expenditure again? Harvey put down half of the milk and exposes Reiner's thoughts at first glance. It's true, sir, since last month, the taxes, house rents, and sales revenue of various commodities in the convenience market have basically no balance after paying the salary of the normal working people. If you don't add paper money and gold, after this month, the people who work on the city wall construction site will not receive their salary. Harvey thought for a moment and asked back, what are the feedback you received after the policy announcement for housing loan purchase is posted? The number of people who came to inquire and intend to purchase has surged, reaching about 1,000 households, but the number of people who actually paid for it is less than 500. Printing paper money in the territory is indeed the primary measure for Harvey to alleviate his financial pressure, but the territory is now unable to achieve 100% self-sufficient property. All goods that need to be imported and purchased still need to be paid out of his own pocket. Use real money and silver coins to purchase from the Chamber of Commerce. After all, I have made my own acre of 3-point land, but no one will admit the colorful pieces of paper he printed. I can't raise 5,000 civilians in the territory by relying solely on myself to grab the leaks of high-level spellcasters on the magic network. Harvey sighed and said slowly, another batch of dollars are printed enough to pay for next month's salary, but in any case, it is necessary to ensure that the food prices remain unchanged and no penny is allowed to rise. In addition, the access restrictions on the convenience market will be relaxed to allow the entrusted people to trade their additional products freely, and the tax rate will still be charged at the original proportion. Yurio has just arrived at the pioneering world for less than half a month, but his life is not very smooth. Unlike most civilians in the territory who were originally refugees in the wasteland, he was an apprentice knight from a small border priest in the south continent. He was unfortunately captured during the battle with the evil orcs last winter, cut off one arm and was then attacked by the evil orcs. He was captured and returned to the northern border. During his capture, the knight's sense of honor made him want to take the initiative to end his life countless times to avoid being insulted by these barbarians again, but they were all stopped by a kind old man who was captured together. The old man named Kowloon is now with him to live in the territory. They were rescued and taken back after being raided by soldiers led by pioneers in the Icefield Valley. Now they rent a single-story one-bedroom cabin. Yurio used to be a small landlord with fields and farms in his hometown. He could only say that the living environment in front of him was pretty good, and it was better than being locked in a wooden cage by an evil orc in a wooden cage to burn the sun and rain. But the key to the problem is that he is already a disabled person with a broken arm, and Dad Kowloon has severe foot sores on both feet and cannot stand and walk for a long time. Most of the time he has to rest in bed. The one-armed Yurio couldn't find a stable job that suited him, so he could only go to the cast iron workshop every day to do some odd jobs that were daily to help sort and dismantle some scrapped weapons of the evil orcs that were obviously sent from the front line. This odd job only takes half a day, and the salary is $1, which is enough for him and his father to barely buy some wheat cakes to fill their stomachs. For the rest of the afternoon, he would wander in the bushes and woods outside the territory's walls, hunting some small wild beasts such as hares and pheasants by trapping them, and sell them at the convenience market. Fortunately, the lord of the spellcaster was very generous, and renting the house he built only required an extremely low rent, and Uriel was not worried that they would be left on the streets because they had no job. In the pioneering leadership, everyone has a consensus that as long as you are not lazy, you can always support yourself easily. The apprentice knight looked at his broken limbs that were cut off from his elbow and smiled helplessly. He could barely be considered a person with hands and feet. He pushed open the door of the cottage and saw Dad Corin sitting by the fireplace baking his feet around a worn-out blanket. There is no mistake. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 619, 1 book, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, a book. Little Uriel, why did you come back so early today? The old man asked with a smile. Uriel gently placed the wheat cakes and shredded bread bought from the convenience market on the mud bricks on the top of the fireplace, and whispered, "There are no harvests in the beast traps outside the city today, so I came back early." He didn't want to express his true thoughts. In fact, when he was off work at noon, he met soldiers returning to the territory from the outpost, wearing neat black uniforms and neatly lined up by him. Uriel was extremely envious of these soldiers who could fight against the evil orcs at the outpost. If he was not disabled, he would go directly to the Lord's barracks to join the army on the first day he came here. But the reality is that now he can only hide this luxury and retain the last trace of dignity that belongs to the knight. Today, the Lord's municipal officials came to find me. Dad Corin saw that Uriel was in a low mood and took the initiative to start the topic. Uriel raised his head blankly and said anxiously, "What are they doing? Didn't they say they would only charge the house rent at the end of the month? I've already collected enough." Dad Corin waved his hand quickly to calm him down. "It's not the reason. You know I can read and write. I used to be a tutor in a baron's family," he said as he took out a letter-sized contract document from his arms and looked at Uriel with a smile on his face. "They invited me to be a teacher in the newly built public schools in the territory, the children in the junior class, with a monthly salary of 80 yuan, and if I was willing to be an additional teacher in the night adult literacy school, there were 2 additional ones. 10 yuan teaching subsidy." As he said that, he struggled to stand up and walk staggeringly to Uriel and patted his shoulder. "Don't worry, we are not useless people. We can come to the pioneering corps by chance, with warm and solid houses, warm and full food, and well-paid jobs," he said as he turned the trainee knight pressed onto the chair. "Don't be worried about the scars of the past anymore. Live well and enjoy the rest of your life is the most important thing." Chapter 87. Harvey was woken up by Reiner early in the morning and handed him 2 letters sealed with varnish. This was a letter sent by the spell messenger, which Harvey felt a little strange. The only person who can still use magic messengers to send letters to him is Ash, a former colleague of Ole's academy. But this guy wrote a letter half a year ago to tell Harvey that he was about to be sent to the battlefield of the Evil Moon Mountains for a 6-month garrison mission, and would not write to him for a long time. Harvey carefully identified the lacquer seal on the envelope and found that it was from the Federation and Grizzly Castle respectively. How come they suddenly remembered to send a letter to a necromancer? Could it be that something happened there? Harvey got up from the bed in his soft and thick nightgown and sat on the small desk in the living room and opened the envelope. There was actually not much difference in the contents of the 2 letters. Harvey felt furious after a rough glance. His pioneering order was obtained from the Lord of Grizzly Castle, Earl Fagin. Since the territory is outside the border of St. Valen, he did not spend a penny to go through. He was only nominally under the jurisdiction of the Count of Grizzly Leader. But now, Earl Fagin, who had never met before, suddenly asked the territory tax officer to write to him, and clearly stated that from the beginning of spring next year, Harvey would need to formally pay territorial taxes to the kingdom. Didn't the Kingdom Act agree that the pioneering leader can exempt taxes for 5 years? Harvey threw down the letter in anger and picked up the letter from the Federation. The content is roughly the same, and the roughly means that the countries in the southern continent have invested a lot of troops and money and participated in the war between the 2 tribes in the Evil Moon Mountains, resulting in the kingdom's financial tightness and lack of taxes. Therefore, the previous tax exemption policy does not count now and it is time to pay. The amount must be paid in full. Harvey sighed, clenching his eyebrows, and clearly the problem lies in the factional discrimination within the Federation. Any fief lord who has both the identity of a spellcaster and a noble will actually be more or less preferential and protected by the Federation to a certain extent. This advantage is often reflected in tax relief. Harvey remembers that there were several spellcasters in the Earl Fagin family in the Grizzly Bears who were members of the Federation. They participated in the garrison battle of the Evil Moon Mountains, so the principality was taxed. During the recruitment matters, Earl Fagin's family has always been favored. Harvey is different. The official membership of the Federation is true, but unfortunately, the Necromancer whom does not love her father and mother do not love her. She has been discriminated against in many ways on the surface. Now she is facing the taxation problem that changes every day. I will not take the initiative to solve the problem for him. But what made him angry was that it would be fine if he didn't stand up for him. The Union branch of St. Valen was even more shameless than Earl of Fagin. Knowing that he was a research-based spellcaster, he actually proposed to help the mage. He went to the Evil Moon Mountains to assist the combat mage and completed a 3-month garrison mission. I am a necromancer. How can I assist a combat mage? Do you pull a few zombies to beat his legs and wash his feet? The more Harvey thought about it, the more angry he became. The experience of false accusation by Bako, an investigator in Jackdaw, last time, came back to his mind. The General Association who was sent to Days was investigated, except for one letter from the General Association. In addition to the perfunctory apology letter, Harvey has not received any follow-up news. Most of the time, it is the result of taking the form and taking 3 glasses of wine. Harvey felt a little uneasy when he remembered that he did not take the initiative to report the Federation to change its member information after he was promoted to the intermediate caster. He was not afraid of the random taxation of ordinary nobles like Earl Fagin. His fief was outside the border. Even if he dared to send tax collectors to come and put pressure on his face, Harvey didn't even have to use soldiers, just a few. The wolf spider beast can make them lose their appetite. But the Federation is different. As far as Harvey knows, apart from the more than 10 spellcasters in the Jackdaw Town branch, more than 50 combat spellcasters were stationed in the Duke of St. Valen alone. This is just a clear idea. The power on the surface is shown. In order to suppress the power of the Church, the Federation should have many hidden identities and combat mages disguised as research-type spellcasters. Harvey can never afford to offend such a behemoth like the Federation. Moreover, if the various prohibited inventions and super weapons that he created in his territory are leaked, they may immediately attract a comprehensive investigation from the Federation. Originally, as long as Harvey had enough time to develop 3 to 5 years, he was fully confident that he could start a business in the Northern Wasteland, an independent force that could compete with the surrounding fiefdom nobles and the Federation branches. We have to think of a way to fool this matter smoothly and give yourself enough time to develop. Fran McCorlin now likes to sneak back home from the Federation's office whenever he has free time and spends a lot of time in the Magic Netcaster forum. Everyone in this forum is a talent in the world of spellcasters, and he speaks nicely. Even if you don't have academic exchanges and discussions, just chatting about some interesting gossips between spellcasters, it is much happier than dealing with the piles of documents and files in the Federation's affairs department. When he entered his forum code with great enthusiasm, he just logged into the Shangmo Net forum and received a separate message from a strange member. Kel'Thuzad, is Mr. Phelan currently here? I have something to ask you. Fran frowned in confusion. This strange member seemed to seldom speak in the forum, and had never communicated with him. However, according to Brother Quinn, he was a wild alchemist independent of the Alchemy Exploration Society, and he was sincere and focused on research. No mistakes, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 forum. Since he was a friendly identity certified by Brother Quinn, and one of the first casters invited in the forum, Fran naturally could not be too indifferent and rude. Magic Shield, hello, I just logged in, please tell me if you need any help. The other party's silver code name flashed several times, indicating that the message was being replied. Kel'Thuzad, first of all, please forgive my presumption. I accidentally learned from Mr. Mirrorman that you have a certain cooperative relationship with the member in charge of magic affairs management in the Federation, so I would like to ask you for a small favor. When Fran saw the first few lines, his heart was immediately alarmed. Damn Brother Quinn, how could he be so talkative that he almost exposed his true identity? Fortunately, they only revealed that they had a cooperative relationship with the Federation, and did not directly disclose the fact that they were internal officials of the Federation. Otherwise, Fran would have to go to the door and beat up these two fools immediately, and then quickly cancel his account on the forum and run away. Fran has joined the forum for some time. Whether participating in online transactions or conducting academic exchanges, everything went very smoothly, and there was no exposure of his identity. This is enough to show that the forum has no problem with information anonymity. He thought for a moment, and then slowly began to reply to the other party. Fa Shield, it is indeed a bit presumptuous, but if it is an emergency, it is understandable. First tell me the reason why you need help, and I will consider whether I can provide help. Chapter 88. Mr. McLennan? It's so late, why are you back in the office? Is there something urgent to deal with? The young waiter at the front desk on the first floor of the Ministry of Magic Affairs came forward and greeted Fran, who had suddenly returned. The front desk waiter, who was still a magic apprentice, felt very confused. In the past, the deputy director of the Ministry of Affairs was the last one to come and the first one to leave every day in the department. How come he took the initiative to come back to work overtime after get off work today for the first time? Is the sun rising from the west? Fran hummed perfunctorily and hurried upstairs to his own independent office. Summoning the hand of the wizard, he moved down a pile of thick paper documents from the high filing cabinet and piled them all on the desk in the office. Fran snapped his fingers lightly, and dozens of archives piled on the desk suddenly spread out automatically without wind, as if they were being quickly flipped by invisible hands. This is a modified spell created by Fran, an advanced auxiliary spell of the mage's hand, Macallan's Phantom Hand. According to the name provided by Mr. Kel'Thuzad, he quickly began to search the archives in the piles of documents, and soon found the target in a file marked with the emblem of the Federation's combat department. Harvey Floyd, a research caster, a junior necromancer, graduated from. Fran took a quick glance and immediately found the problem. How could a research caster, or a junior necromancer, be included in the combat department's support list? Fran frowned and muttered to himself. In the past, when the war in the Evil Moon Mountains was tense, there were indeed temporary summons of casters to reinforce the battlefield, but it was limited to summoning registered combat mages or natural casters who were good at healing spells. He seemed to have never encountered a situation where a research-type necromancer was recruited into the army, and judging from the order and submission time of the list, it seemed that Mr. Floyd was the unlucky guy who was suddenly added at the last moment when the document was signed and confirmed. It seems that this mage has offended a middle and high-level member of the Federation. Fran, who has rich work experience in official departments, keenly saw the possible problems. From his resume, he was born in a civilian family, not a family of a spellcaster or aristocrat. He studied in an unknown necromancer college in a small principality in the central part of the continent, and did not learn from any famous teacher in the Federation. His honest background and mediocre academic resume meant that he could only have come into contact with members of a local Federation branch after graduation, and perhaps suffered discrimination and unfair treatment, which led to his unprovoked disaster. Fran was very satisfied with his inference, which showed that he could intervene in this incident at will without worrying about offending a senior member of the Federation. And the reason was very legitimate. He only needed to point out the illegal recruitment in this document and attach the previous practice to compare, and the problem could be easily solved. Fran then took out a piece of white paper, wrote a few short lines of work approval fluently with a feather pen, then signed his name, clipped it on the recruitment document, and threw it on his secretary's desk. The secretary should find this approval document as soon as he comes to work tomorrow morning, and the illegal issue should be dealt with within a day. Just a signature can help Mr. Kel'Thuzad deal with a small problem, 20 points are easily in hand, ha ha ha. As for why this forum member who is a high-level alchemist has a family descendant of a junior necromancer, Fran did not want to delve into the answer. Maybe it was the illegitimate child problem caused by some romantic debt. Harvey looked at the reply message sent by Mr. Magic Shield on the forum and smiled with satisfaction. Sure enough, it was a senior manager within the Federation who solved his most worrying problem so quickly, and also intimately revealed to him that there might be some illegal operations in this temporary call-up. Mr. Magic Shield was hinting that he might have offended someone within the Federation. Even if Harvey thought with his knees, he could understand the reason. It must be those people from the faction that discriminated against necromancers to which Bako belonged. It's easy to get things done when you have someone in the upper echelons. Harvey stretched his back and sighed as he leaned back in his chair. After successfully escaping this pitfall battlefield call-up, the remaining problem was how to argue with Earl Fagin, the lord of Grizzly Castle, who changed his orders every day, about the issue of taxation in the Pioneer Territory. When facing ordinary nobles, Harvey would not be so cautious. Although the other party was a distinguished earl, it was obviously against the laws and regulations of the kingdom, so he could just ignore it and refuse to pay taxes. But it was obvious that the nobles always resorted to force when dealing with such exploitation of others. Next, Harvey only needed to guard against the other party and possibly send soldiers to attack the territory. He immediately sent a message to summon Reiner and asked him to send half of the wolf spider beasts responsible for daily patrols and alerts in the territory to the forests of Jackdaw Ridge, so as to predict in advance whether the other party had the intention to attack. Send a message to Pierce again and ask him to send a smart grassroots officer, disguised as a servant who buys supplies for me, to the teleportation warehouse I opened in Jackdaw Town and keep an eye on the movements there at any time. No mistakes in one song, one post, one content, 1.6, 1.9, one book, one forum. Harvey looked at Reiner making work records seriously and suddenly asked curiously, "Reiner, why didn't you assemble the robotic arm I designed for you?" He suddenly recalled that it seemed that whenever Reiner needed to work in the municipal department, he did not assemble the mechanical prosthetics he designed himself. When Reiner heard Harvey's question, he put away the paper and pen in a slight manner, and said, Sir, I like the set of mechanical prosthetics you designed, but Egno and others said, it's said that after I installed it, I looked like a monster. But when I work in the laboratory and the magic military factory, I will assemble them, which is really useful." Reiner seemed afraid of hurting Harvey's heart and tried desperately to explain the remedy. Harvey burst into laughter as if he suddenly realized what he was doing. He walked to Reiner and patted his shoulder to comfort him. "I'm sorry, when I designed this set of equipment, I didn't consider the appearance and image." He paused and held back his smile. "Don't mind too much about other people's eyes. You should know that in ancient times, the first batch of people were the first batch of people in the past. Ancient wizards who learned to manipulate magic and cast magic were also called the devil's servants and evil monsters by people at that time." He couldn't help but see Reiner's 6 metal tentacles equipped with fangs and claws, walking in the territory scared the public and shivering them and avoided them. He still felt a little funny. Although the image of Dr. Octopus in my impression is indeed a villain, it is really handsome. They don't know how to appreciate it, okay. Chapter 89. Felholden logged into the Magic Network forum on time in the evening, but was surprised to find that at the end of the list of forum members, a member code name that he had never seen before suddenly appeared. Mindhunter? When did this new member join? Why haven't I heard anyone mention it? He still clearly remembered the fierce scene of everyone bidding enthusiastically to buy the invitation quota at the last forum auction. Could this be the member invited by Mr. Magic Shield? No, there were new members who joined a few days ago, but they didn't have the right to speak, so they shouldn't be able to participate in the exchange meeting today. With doubts, Fair pressed the typing button on the Magic Brain instrument and joined the routine opening greetings of the weekly exchange meeting. Hand of Elements, praise Mr. Turing. Good evening, everyone. Frost Giant, I heard that the Federation and the Church's coalition forces have completely occupied the Magic Stone mining area in the Evil Moon Mountains. I wonder if this news is true? Magic Shield, it is basically true, but there are still several magic caster teams around the mining area that are frequently harassing and attacking, and it is impossible to mine magic stones normally. Frost Giant, haha, it's because they are too eager to divide the mining share of the magic stone vein. The more anxious they are, the more unlucky they are. Harvey looked at the speech of the Frost Giant and couldn't help laughing out loud while sitting in front of the screen. This gloating face was too obvious. It felt that his forum anonymous vest would be stripped off soon. Heart of the Forest, the war between the two tribes is essentially a struggle for interests. Shadow Knight, the demons have only temporarily eased their offensive. After winter, they will definitely come back. At that time, in order to compete for the magic stone mining area, a tragic bloody battle will surely break out. The new member's speech was so confident that Harvey couldn't help but wonder if he was in the battlefield of the Evil Moon Mountains at this moment. Perhaps he was a high-level spellcaster of the Federation or the Wizard Kingdom Coalition. Everyone discussed the war situation again. On the crystal screen that kept displaying the member's speech information, a new text suddenly popped up, but the member code name was very unfamiliar. Mindhunter, everyone, I have a question, why are the two races of humans and demons so keen on war and killing? Shouldn't the short-lived species be more afraid of death? The originally lively atmosphere of the chat and discussion seemed to freeze in an instant, and all the spellcasters participating in the exchange meeting had a strange thought in their minds. What kind of non-human identity is this new member who asked such a weird question? In the minds of spellcasters, even the elves with an average lifespan of more than 200 years would not so lightly call humans and demons, a race with an average lifespan of no more than 100 years, short-lived species. This is not a question of politeness at all, but a question of contempt for the level of life. Harvey also immediately realized the problem with the speech of this Mr. Heart Demon, and suddenly felt embarrassed and wanted to turn off the internet immediately. Administrator Turing, everyone, I'm sorry for not introducing you in advance. This Mindhunter is a new member who joined recently. He was directly recommended to me by an anonymous member in the forum. Holden was stunned in front of the magic brain. Is there anyone who has the authority to directly recommend members to Mr. Turing? Could it be that the teacher himself recommended it? It's unlikely. The teacher clearly only recommended Master Shan and didn't mention that there were additional recommendation quotas. Moreover, this Mindhunter obviously spoke in a non-human way. Although it is unknown which ancient alien race with a long lifespan he was approved by Mr. Turing to join. At least his status is equal to that of a legendary spellcaster like the teacher. Hey, there are indeed some other races mixed in the spellcaster forum. Although Fair has a hot temper, he is not brainless. He has long been aware of the special nature of this magic network forum. That was the suggestive words that the administrator Mr. Turing said when he first joined. The spellcaster forum adheres to the principles of freedom, openness, tolerance, and anonymity, and is not bound by any secular rules. After all, even the administrator Mr. Turing himself, in the eyes of most of the initial members who knew about it, already knew that he was not an ordinary human spellcaster. It is not surprising that there are elves, dwarves, and even hostile alien races such as demons and sea tribes in the forum. At this moment, the high-level elemental mage Holden truly understood the potential meaning of Mr. Turing's words. On the road to pursuing extraordinary power, in the delusion of craving to improve the level of life, there is no real hostility and hatred. Everyone is just an ant climbing on the giant tree of the world. Only those who are willing to communicate and share can go higher and further. Mindhunter, is this question a bit rude? I don't communicate with people very often. If I offend you, please allow me to apologize in advance. Scorching Lord, I appreciate Mr. Mindhunter's sincerity. It seems that you don't have much experience in communicating with people, but it doesn't matter. The purpose of the forum itself is the tolerance and openness proposed by Mr. Turing. No mistakes in one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1619, one book, one forum. Harvey keenly discovered that the legendary spellcaster secretly replaced the word people in the sentence communicate with people with the word human beings. He was hinting at the other human members present that they were not human beings, but he also took the initiative to express his acceptance and goodwill. He is indeed a legendary master who is well versed in the art of language. Since the forum was founded by Harvey, several small factions have been formed in it. Among them, the legendary spellcaster Scorching Lord is the leader, who has a very obvious background as a member of the Federation. Although the Scorching Lord himself does not seem to have a biased position, the representative who led the speech is the gentleman codenamed Magic Shield. The second faction, led by Frost Giant and Heart of the Forest, is a spontaneous group of elves and cave dwarves. Although they are happy to participate in sharing and communication, they are still dissatisfied with human spellcasters in private. Mr. Mirror Man is a high-level alchemist of the Alchemy Exploration Society, and his attitude is relatively neutral and fair. Harvey knows that the Exploration Society and the Federation actually have a close cooperative relationship in reality because of the war between the two clans. Perhaps that is why he invited Magic Shield to join the forum. Other slightly more low-key members also have star friends with whom they communicate closely and have close relationships in the forum. The entire Magic Network Spellcaster forum now presents a faction ecology that is almost the same as the situation in the real world. Harvey is actually happy to see this happen. After all, there are competitions and potential conflicts among forum members, so he has the opportunity to grab the benefits he needs from these members. If the relationship between members is harmonious and they know each other well, and they are united as one, maybe he, a rookie in the name of an administrator, would have been exposed long ago, and he might even have to suffer a wave of online box openings and offline reality. Chapter 90. After the harvest season, the northern wilderness began to gradually enter a relatively long cold dry season. There was abundant rain in spring and summer, and the climate was dry and cold in autumn and winter. Even the water flow of the glacier river became much less. The territory wall construction plan set by Harvey in the summer has entered the stage of rushing to complete the construction of the wall sections facing the north and east before the first snow falls in the north. Since the territory's own mining area began to mine iron ore normally, various types of alchemy beasts in the military factory began to enter a period of explosive production. The hunting team composed of defeated militiamen rushed around the primitive mountains and forests around the territory every day, hunting all kinds of living beasts that provide soul transformation for alchemy beasts. Sir, since last week, the hunting team has reported that they can no longer find any traces of wolves. Have we hunted down all the wolves in the vicinity? Harvey had anticipated this in advance. He pinched his brows and asked, I've said before that we should try not to hunt down mother wolves and young wolves. Only by maintaining the reproductive volume of the wolf pack can we achieve sustainable development. Have they not taken it seriously at all? Reiner explained with some embarrassment, it can't be blamed entirely on the hunting team. The hunting quota given to them by the military factory is too high. Their hunting range is almost extended to the area that is 2 days round trip from the territory. It is still difficult to complete the task. Harvey smiled bitterly. It seems that the problem is still on his head. The production task he gave to the military factory this month exceeded their capacity. But there is no way. The application range of the wolf spider alchemy beast is too wide. The daily patrol and vigilance work of the territory is basically completed by a small number of patrol soldiers leading a large number of wolf spider beasts. Small-scale battles between the River Valley outpost and the evil beastmen also require the cooperation of the wolf spider beasts to conduct interspersed operations in the mountains and forests. The hunting team of the territory naturally also needs the cooperation of the wolf spider beasts, otherwise they can hardly move in the primitive mountains and forests, and they are almost in danger. Some time ago, Harvey even found that the staff of the ranch began to drive the wolf spider beasts to herd cattle and sheep. Now the number of wolf spider beasts in the territory exceeds 500. I suggest setting up a dedicated alchemical beast maintenance center to be responsible for the daily maintenance of all alchemical creatures in the territory. In this regard, Reiner does know more than Harvey, after all, he is also a member of the alchemical creatures. Then open a separate training course in the adult night school and recruit a group of technical workers to study specifically. Harvey has attached great importance to literacy education and vocational training from the beginning. The school built next to the municipal department has been operating for nearly a year and now accommodates about 500 minors for primary education. The night adult literacy school has also achieved an enrollment rate of more than 10% of the territory residents. You have to know that in this era, the literacy rate of ordinary civilians in the southern continent is less than 1%. Harvey's requirements in the short term are not high, and it is enough for the people to basically read and understand his various decrees and announcements. But the managers who join the municipal departments of the territory must ensure 100% literacy and reading and writing rates, and there can be no slack in this area. Are there any new developments and news at Pierce's Valley Outpost? Harvey has been a little tired recently, and he has been lazy for several days and has not read the outpost reports sent by Pierce every day. The frequency of the evil orcs appearing on the north bank of the valley is higher than before, and there seems to be a sign of regrouping, but their base camp is still in the valley 10 kilometers away from the glacier river. The number of soldiers stationed at the valley outpost has stabilized at about 300 people. As the commander of the outpost, Pierce unswervingly implements Harvey's rotation training policy, rotating about 200 soldiers every month, so that all soldiers who have undergone basic training have the opportunity to directly participate in small-scale battles with the evil orcs and conduct actual combat exercises. But at present, Harvey's territory is facing threats from both sides at the same time, and it is known that the evil orcs in the north are ready to move. Earl Fagin of Grizzly Castle in the south may not be able to stay calm for too long. After all, the 3 temporary tax orders sent by the other party through the Federation were directly ignored by Harvey, and he did not even reply to a letter. Harvey vaguely felt that an armed conflict between him and the Earl of Grizzly Castle would inevitably break out. In order not to expose the specific situation of the territory directly, he set the battlefield of this armed conflict in the southern mountain of Jackdaw Ridge in advance, intending to directly defend the enemy outside the territory. Pierce was unable to get away from the outpost in the valley, so the job of detecting the enemy's movements in advance was forced to fall into the hands of Astalin. During this period, he took the wolf spider beast and several teams of soldiers to run around in Jackdaw Ridge, setting up guard posts and temporary camps in advance. There are still too few talents around us. Everyone has to take on multiple duties and can't get away at all. Harvey recalled his slacking behavior in the past few days and felt a little ashamed. I have to stand up too, I can't be lazy anymore. Reiner, let the military factory reduce part of the production plan this month, and allocate a group of workers in advance to start preparing the maintenance center of the alchemy beast. I will see the results as early as next month. No mistakes in one song, one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1619. Let Egno increase the magic stones in the beetle breeding farm. Don't worry about the inventory problem. The new batch of magic stones will be delivered before the winter comes. At the end of this month, I require all soldiers in the territory to be equipped with bullet-equipped magic guns. The biggest problem with the army's weapon configuration now is not the shortage of new guns, but the storage of magic bullets. Because a large number of live-fire shooting training, high-frequency rotation training, and frequent small-scale operations are consuming the already stretched ammunition reserves all the time. But Harvey knows that the combat effectiveness and combat experience of an army are completely fed by a steady stream of bullets and logistical supplies, so he dare not save in this regard. In addition to the magic stone procurement channel from the forum member Frost Giant, the Dragonstone Chamber of Commerce has also been supplying him with a large amount of low-level magic stones during this period, but Harvey still feels it is not enough. After the new small excavation alchemy beast is assembled and mass-produced, he will start to mine the magic stone vein located under the main castle of his territory. At present, this work is still in the secret preparation stage. Harvey decided to mine a small amount of it first and put it into the production of guns and ammunition in the magic military factory to see if the quality of the first batch of magic stones is as he predicted. After all, no one except Harvey has the opportunity to try to apply high-level charging magic stones to mass-produced magic weapons. I hope that what we are sitting on is really a magic gold mine, not a barrel of explosives.